Whoa, everybody. It's another week. It's news of the week. Also, our comics podcast. Ready to go. News of the week. Exciting week. Freezing cold, New Jersey. Freezing cold. Snow's coming. Ready to go. I'm all packed up. Got all the food. I'm not leaving the house this week. Not leaving the house this week. I'm good.
No, no, we're only getting a couple inches of snow,
I'm not
and I'm
leaving.
glad. I'm glad we're off tomorrow for well, when you listen to this,
I'm
Martin
working.
Luther King. It might be Martin Luther King Day as you listen to this,
Hmm.
but yeah, UPS. They had never given us off in the 120 years of UPS history,
Oh, well.
and our last contract, we like no, Martin Luther King is an important holiday. We need off. So UPS is like, well, let's not look racist. So let's give them off Martin Luther King Day.
Usually, they don't care about looking racist. Usually, so that's good.
Corporate
Progress.
America, yeah, they don't normally care. They hate everyone. They hate the poor.
Hmm.
Or this country's going to come to a class war one day.
Oh, boy. That's
I know.
another episode. That'll be a
That's
very special episode.
a very special episode.
I didn't see. All right, so I got my BPRD as a Chris Ivy drawing behind me. I
Awesome.
didn't know this. I was looking because this week there was a BPRD book that's not called BPRD for some reason. I don't know why. And so I have my BPRD shirt on,
You are BPRD'd out.
woo, which fits me now. So I lost the weight, so that's pretty fun. This was in a spare closet of things that don't fit me. Cool. So
Um,
I can open that back up. What's yours?
um,
You got it there.
you,
You're
it's
on Icon
yeah.
or Argento.
Behind me whoosh, is Icon, the capital city of Cybertron. And as I come back, this is an Evil Dead shirt in a style.
Oh,
Yeah, this was a present from Walt.
there you
Walt's
go.
got so many shirts he can just give them away.
Yep.
But
That's good.
you know
Blood
what's
splatter.
funny? Yeah, I was worried it wasn't going to show up good because
That's
it's
cool.
black, so it's like it cuts off. You can see. It's funny because I have a pile of t-shirts that I like did not want to get rid of when I was super heavy, but now that I'm down a little bit, I'm like, oh, I can fit in 2X again. Oh, 1X a little tight, but getting
Nice.
there.
Yeah, as a 1X. Um,
So, you
but
know what?
Chris Ivy, you ran into, speaking of UPS, speaking of he lives near us. He
Yeah,
lives
he lives in the
20
town
minutes from
of
me, I
yeah,
guess.
he lives in Mount Holly. I've seen him when I was delivering there. That's no longer my route, but like it was funny running into him. Like he told me he lived there. We had seen him in Baltimore a couple years in a row. Phenomenal inker, really good artist, underutilized, I feel. He
Yeah, this is really good. This is
I
pretty
think
neat.
he first came to my attention. Yeah, that's really good. He first came to my attention inking Supreme because
Mhm.
back then, every image book you're like, well, who's the penciler? Who's the inker? Because Supreme One inked by Liefeld, Supreme Two half inked by Liefeld, half inked by Brian Murray. But the book was taking so long to come out, they got Chris Ivy to start on 3 and 4. So, and then I've seen his artwork since. I don't follow him, but like I recognize his ink lines. He's a good inker, nice guy.
He was an ink. I'm trying to think what his name, what he's most synonymous for. I'm thinking Cage.
Oh
Chris
yeah,
Ivy, Dwayne Turner, mainly Dwayne Turner, and I want to say he did some stuff for Ron Lim, but I can't really think, I can't really place it. It's not Silver. I was thinking that was Tom Christopher who did the majority of. Was Joe Rubinstein initially on his Silver Surfer run, which I didn't like Joe Rubinstein inks on
on Ron
Ron Lim.
Mars, Ron
Yeah,
Lim, yeah,
yeah, the
one
early
of the Ron,
run,
one
the
of those
early
Rons.
Starlin. It was Englehart to Starlin to Mars on that. So you're in the right space of that Ron Lim Silver Surfer run, which is
Oops.
almost all collected. It's really weird the way that that Epic collections are kind of coming out in a lot of different ways, and they're not exactly fully in order, but it's okay. Not too mad
Look,
about it.
they will get there.
They'll get there. Well, this week I think I talked to you about it. I was looking at the contents of they had a Blade Epic Collection Volume 2, and I'm like, well, that's weird. They had a Blade Omnibus. It was the early years. It was all the early Blade stuff.
Right.
And then this was like it, but I'm trying to think what Volume 1 was. So this one, I'm thinking it was Night Stalkers 1 through 6 plus a Ghost Rider 31. So they don't have the entire Rise of Midnight Suns in there for some reason. Okay. But so they put in part 5 of Midnight Suns and part 6. So the last two chapters. I guess it's weird because I believe their first appearance is in 30. I think it's in Ghost Riders 30, but they're not in there, or maybe they were in there as a picture. I'm not sure. Then they also have I was looking at it on Near Mint Condition, which is a good YouTube channel. So I look at when he kind of goes through it, and then you can see the pictures of like the extras, and the extras are real weird because if you remember, all the Midnight Suns, um, they came with a piece of a poster, so it was like 6 or 8, and it became like one big poster. I'll put it down there. It came as one like, and you can make one gigantic poster, which they never. I don't think they ever put out that poster itself.
The super poster.
Yeah, but the cover, which was Adam and Andy, I think it was just all Adam and Andy. I'm pretty sure. And that Darkhold, Night Stalkers, Morbius, Ghost Rider, Spirits of Vengeance, right? I guess it might have been 6. That may make sense. But so they only show you the pic of the poster, which was also the cover. So it's like, well, I already see that image on the cover. So it's kind of a poorly designed cover. I don't love it. And then the other extra, which I've never seen this trade anywhere, it was they did a Marvel trade of Return of Midnight Suns, which had like extra flaps. So it's a big Ron Garney drawing. It's a double. So it's not even a cover. It's covering a little bit extra. So it's like covering it's like a double spread splash plus a little extra. And then on the sides,
you love those flaps.
love those flaps. So but the flaps on the sides have like excerpts from a Marvel Age article, like an interview. It's like, wow, like we keep talking about what type of weird contents are in these things. But I'm like, you're covering up this really cool looking Ron Garney drawing I've never seen before. And I'm trying to think who inked that. It wasn't Tom Palmer because I don't actually like. Pretty sure I have the majority of Night Stalkers run I got in dollar bins or even cheaper, but I don't like that Garney because that's like Tom Palmer heavier inks and it's not clean. So I feel like it's getting messier. Ron Garney's putting out certain things. So as soon as Ron Garney flipped over to Ghost Rider, it might have been Bill Reinhold inking him there. It was just different immediately. Chris Ivy might have been done some of that, is what I'm thinking too. I feel like there was some Chris Ivy and some of that Midnight Sun stuff. Anyway, I don't know. We can see. You gotta run into him on the UPS trail and be like, hey, we're gonna have you on the show and talk to you. So maybe future future guest.
Yeah, could be a future guest.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's do a quick plug. So this week was I'm trying to do more posting. We're all kind of, we're all trying. We're all, now that we're out of the Christmas holiday, somehow it's almost February. I don't know. But let me
this month's going fast.
Let me do the share real fast. 1 second. We'll go into the news of the week. News. And go through plugs. Hold on. There we go.
What's funny is we're going to do the plugs up top, but what we do on the side is more popular right now than this show. We should be like, we're trying to plug the show. We should be plugging the show where we're doing the plugs on. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's funny.
Whoop. All right, so here we go. So this week, I did this one. So I put up a Cobra. So I was doing, and I was pretty consistent doing it every day, every other day. Kind of fell off. Got divorced again, as you do. It happens, right?
When you were originally doing this, what, 2 years ago? Year and a half ago?
Yeah, I think so. It's because it's up to 200 and something. So I knew I did it probably every other day. So I would try to put up OHABMU, so original, official Marvel handbook to the Marvel Universe, OHABMU. But I also included GI Joe Order of Battle. I also included the updates and Transformers Universe, right?
Right.
And then DP7, and then so just the stuff right in that main core. But I realized that, okay, it's like, all right, so I did Cobra, and I'm in here. I'm like, wait, I got to do Cobra Commander, right? But then I realized I did Cobra Commander. Like, also, I like the way when I color edited this, like this green became like a neon green. It was like almost like a black light. So
were you trying to list the artist of everyone when you were doing it, or?
I do that, yeah. So I put that, and this was around Friends, I believe, and then everything was Joe Rubenstein, of course, and the initial OHABMU.
Yeah, he inked everything in the original.
But
miniseries.
But I put this out last year, so I was like, oh, Cobra Commander. I was like, wait, I did a Cobra Commander, didn't I? Because I remember doing it, because I realized that in GI Joe, they started doing towards the very end of that series, which ran 130 something like that. GI Joe,
something.
And then towards the end, they just started putting in extra GI Joe dossier. So they were doing updated Cobra. They updated Order of Battle sheets, which are better than Order of Battle sheets, because Order of Battle sheets are kind of bad. Kind of rough.
I don't know how many is in the original GI Joe run. If it is 130, that's fine. But what that means is we've had 160 since then, which means we've had more new GI Joe comics
of
that run than the original run. I just find that funny.
Because IDW started in the
Yeah,
issue,
IDW started.
whatever they started up at 130, 140. Does that sound right?
Correct. Is
Okay,
the next issue.
gotcha.
There's like, here you go, his next issue. Devil's Due, their initial G.I. Joe miniseries and ongoing series, they thought that was a follow-up to the Marvel series, but they didn't have Larry Hama involved initially. They still brought him in for other stuff. But
Mm,
then when IDW got the license, they're just like, hey, let's continue your run. You know,
that's cool.
they tried to do the
Hmm.
same thing with Furman on Transformers, but Furman had, when Marvel stopped the original Transformers miniseries, they did try again with Transformers Generation 2, which was a direct sequel to the Marvel series. So then when he got to IDW and they said, hey, let's continue the Marvel series, he's like, well, where do I continue from? The original series or Gen 2 series? Because they were both, it was a follow-up.
Mm.
So are they just kind of like a melding of them? And they just called it Transformers, I think, Regeneration.
Right. Yeah. You sent me pictures of some of the covers for some of that before.
It's really good. It's a good follow-up. And it just takes place in the future. It's just a future Transformers.
Right.
If
And
he
that's
were to have
Wildman.
continued, it was Wildman. I don't think he could stay on it. So it ends up going to Guido Guidi, who can do an incredible Marvel retro style. He's done issues of other comics that just look, they do it in a retro way that looks better than any Marvel comic ever looked.
That's awesome.
Simon Furman did a series, I think, called like Lies and Secrets.
Oh
Phenomenal
yeah.
Transformer series. Phenomenal. Like really good. Like you don't have to like it's almost a prequel to the Marvel series. And gives like back like the Budiansky stuff. It's like a prequel to his original Marvel
Booty Ants.
comics.
Booty.
Budiansky. Booty, booty, booty. All right. So Cobra
um,
Commander, Neil Adams. How awesome is that to get a Neil Adams drawing of Cobra Commander?
yeah, and that's even when I put up the initial post, I just kind of left the stuff in there and just added. So I was going through. I said, wait, well, because I remember at the time when I put it out, I was like, because I was finding all these extra things. And sorry, let me start plopping them in, and I was finding extra like in the back of some of the new universe. They started to put some of theirs in. Uh, so I was like, okay. So I tried to add some of those in, and then I was like,
So
came to that. I'm like, okay, so Cobra Commander. But when I looked through Order of Battle, I didn't see it. It was Order Battle 3. So let me go up. So Order Battle 3 has all the Cobra people, right? So I looked at
right.
in the contents and it's not in there. I
Look
was
at
like,
that.
okay,
Look at a Herb Trippy cover. How awesome.
but he's on the he's there. He's right there. He's on the cover. There he is. So I don't understand where is he? So I looked through it again and I can't put out Cobra and then put something else out. And also in this they have like Cobras, which is a terrible no entry. It's just Cobra foot like soldiers,
Right.
nothing. So I
The
have to put
Co
that out, I guess today. I don't know.
the Cobros.
Cobras. It's just nothing, right?
What's up,
But
brah?
so this was really weird. And we looked at this before the show started, and I'm like, "What is this?"
Code name enemy leader. Is that his code name? Like we don't talk about enemy leader.
So there's a couple things, a couple curious things about GI Joe Order Battle. We know the Transformers basically were more of the models, and then they were
They were the cartoon models.
the cartoon models, and then they were like traced over by or cleaned up a little bit by I think Herb Trimp there as well, and inked by Ian Aiken and Garvey. Though that did
Right,
uh,
right. Be
this
because the Marvel
is
Universe, the Transformers Universe entry has an animation model at one point for Broadside, the Triple Changer.
mhm.
That was not that they ended up not using in the official cartoon, and then they went back and had to fix it later. Remember, I had to send you like Mark, look at this.
Oh yeah,
This
yeah,
is this is the
yeah.
wrong animation model. But like the
Right,
people
right,
putting
right.
these books together, they're not like Transformers and GI Joe fans. They're just editors and assistants. So I think we briefly said like enemy leader was probably just the notes on like who this guy is. He's the enemy leader. Like that's
Right. Or it's flipped, or his name code name is Cobra Commander and his role is enemy leader, like that's
right,
the
right.
role.
Like who's going to be the enemy leader? This guy, yeah.
So I had to go back and put this back in. Cobra Commander is hatred and evil personified, corrupt, a man without scruples, probably the most dangerous man alive. Now also the narrative here is also weird because I'm pretty sure in the dossier I want to say they were like quotes. So I don't know who is he talking about himself? I want to say that the other ones that I've read that I put that in there. I know the Transformers universe is their quote, and I'm pretty sure that's the way G.I. Joe Order Battle is too. Really weird. So yeah, so I had to kind of go back and put that back in. And the spec. So Cobra Commander. So that's really fun.
So the neat thing
Uh,
about that Neil Adams has drawn GI Joe at least twice because he drew that one.
Hmm.
but he also inked a double page spread of Liefeld's Take
Oh,
a
right.
Shot
Right,
in
right, right.
Snake Eyes #5,
Right.
which may be his last official comic work.
It is yeah, I believe that's confirmed. I believe that is his last
No,
official
nothing
comic
else has been published since. There's never been, no one else has been like, oh no, no, I have the last one, or you know what I mean?
published. Yeah, because I think he does prints. He always did a lot of prints and stuff. His wife still does live streams. She still does prints now.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah, because
Uh,
when Liefeld asked him to ink a page, Neil Adams like, well, I'm not going to do it unless it's a double page spread. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to turn that down.
right, right,
He's
right.
Liefeld has a cable pencil by Neil Adams,
Mm.
which probably looks awesome. He's like, I want to ink it one day. Not the official pencils, like a photocopy of it. You
Right,
don't
right, right,
ink if you own something penciled. You don't ink it. You ink a copy of it.
right.
So that'll
Well,
be
now you can ink and you can literally print or photocopy on like Bristol board, right?
that's all.
Like,
That's what Liefeld's been doing for like 20 years.
yeah, right,
He
right, right,
does the
right.
blue line, takes the pencils, blue line, prints. He's got a printer that prints right on, you know, original artboards.
Yeah, that's really
I
fun.
don't
Well, it's funny. The one piece that I have, I know that,
piece by
so
who?
that I have a Sean Phillips piece for Reckless, right? So it's
It's
for
a
the
beautiful
Reckless
page.
graphic novel that Brubaker Sean Phillips, and I remember looking at it, and I know how he does it. I've seen it. I've seen him his process pieces on like Art of Sean Phillips on his Instagram. So he'll do a thumbnail on his iPad in a blue line, print it on a page, but he'll letter it before he inks it, and then he prints it out, and then he inks it heavy, uh, and details it in ink. So he doesn't do full pencils anymore, like at all. He does like a rough, and he knows how to ink. Of course, he knows how to ink. But what I think one of the coolest things that the artist edition and stuff that we really like is that things don't pick up per se. So here you get to see like he knows it's going to be all black on when it prints, right? But here you get to see like the ink not fully take on the page or bleed a little heavier on the page. But when it
Mm,
comes out in paper, it's like, oh, you don't see any of that stuff. So it's like, it's not just a flat black. It's all just like cloudy in different areas. So but even just like looking at this like cover construction, like really great. This is actually a Brian Hitch drawing, but it's a kind of a house style Brian Hitch.
how funny.
Because
House style slash.
you can't really
I
tell. I
I
couldn't
feel
really.
like he was looking at. I feel like he was looking at Zek.
Of course, yeah. Well, of course, that's the go-to. So, or even like I think
Yeah.
right around this time, Andy Cooper did a lot of art for this, which Andy Cooper is the current GI Joe A-Rah, a real American hero
Oorah,
artist.
oorah, a
A-Rah.
rah. All right,
There's my cat sleeping.
all right. That's a
Um,
good. That's a good thing, Mark.
Here's your
Keep
plugs.
doing your.
Idiosyncratic Pulp. I got my John Carter stuff. More of that. I'm going to try to do the ads and stuff this week. I picked up some stuff this week, so I'm going to try and I'm trying to do at least a post a day. So, but you know how that goes.
I do. I do. Real life gets in the way. Real life, not comic life.
Is your X plugs?
This is
So you're
my. This
active
is
on X.
this is my Rob Messick 76 because Rob Messick was already taken. I'm doing a Youngblood image a day. Usually headed towards the build up of the Youngblood new series by Liefeld later in the year. Today I'm doing the Die Hard card that came attached to Youngblood. And since I couldn't find any original art or cover variations, I put up two cards from, there we go. That's the card
Yeah.
itself. Um, I forget what issue it was in. That was a card that they just colored. This card series is ridiculous. They just took Youngblood 1 art and all the sketches Liefeld had done and just colored them. I don't know who colored them. They
The
just
comic
colored them.
images.
Yeah, it was
Was that
comic
one of the comic
images.
images?
Like, can you imagine you've bought a whole card series based off of like one issue and like preview artwork? It's hilarious, and that's a Die Hard sketch that was in both Comic Scene magazine and Malibu Sun. I think number 10.
I love the dots. I love that I love the way that looks. You know,
Yeah,
that's super fun.
it is
And
super fun.
what was
There's
this
a
in?
sketch. This was in Comic Scene magazine and also Malibu Sun.
It's weird because it looks like almost like there was going to be something else here.
It's just a character sketch. Yeah,
Right,
you're
but
right.
like,
I see that those weird
is
lines.
it a Y? This is a Y down
Yeah, right.
this. We'll talk
Yeah,
about in the ultimate Wolverine this week. I really like that costume design. I think the costume design is excellent,
yeah.
excellent, excellent, excellent. And
Um,
then
the other thing I do is Maximum Supreme, going day by day, talking about going through the run of Supreme. This is in the middle of Supreme Apocalypse storyline where Darkthorn comes in and Prophet and Brigade. Supreme's, I think, possessed. He's got like this magical knife sticking out of his back. This is Joe
Nice.
Bennett, early Joe Bennett,
I
who
see.
changes his style again when Alan Moore comes in to write it.
Hmm.
This
Oh
is
yeah.
about, yeah, so this is about Supreme, I don't know, like 29-ish. So there you go. First time Supreme and Prophet meet.
I wonder when this is. I want to plop in when he did that issue of Conan. So there's Conan volume. Actually, it wasn't even volume two. It was just Conan, right? The '90s Conan book, and the majority of the first couple issues are. I'm trying to think if that was a Henry Flint or Flint Henry. One of the Flints or the Henrys or the Henry Flints
Yeah, I forget
on the
which is which.
beginning of that,
The
right?
one that drew Man Bat or the one that didn't draw Man
The
Bat?
one who did not draw Man Bat.
The English
That's
one,
so that's Henry
right?
Flint.
Henry
Yeah,
Flint. I think he's English, or at least he did a
I
lot
think
of
that's right.
Marvel work.
Yeah.
Flint Henry came to our comic store with Chuck Dixon
Mhm.
when they were doing the Man Bat miniseries.
Yep. We had
And if
like
you had,
10 people showed up. No one
it was,
showed up for that
dude,
signing,
that
which
was
is
a
ridiculous.
great, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
We a couple highlights of the Chuck Dixon Flint Henry. First off, if you had a Man Bat to sign, he drew you a picture of Man Bat on the cover,
Mhm.
which was awesome. He got sick. Chris Wilson kept playing Saturday Morning's Greatest Hits, which was a CD of classic cartoons from the 60s and 70s, redone by modern artists. And our friend Chris loved it. He just kept playing it over and over. And Chuck Dixon's like, "Do you have like other music to play?" Like, and also at the time, I'd gotten a free Carnosaur jacket from West Coast Video. I'm like, "Is that a Carnosaur?" They had it up there. They were trying to sell it for like years. I'm like, "How much?" And she's just like, "You could take it. Nobody
Oh
wants
my
this
God.
Carnosaur jacket."
You still have that?
And I don't know what happened to it. I
Oh,
lost it,
right.
which
That's
sucks.
not
And Chuck
something that
Dixon,
you didn't sell it.
I know I didn't sell it. Um, I feel like I used to use it for like a ski jacket too in my days of skiing. But I love that jacket. I should look it up. I should go see if I can find it. See if I can have a
Yeah, it's
bigger boy
probably worth
version
a
of it.
lot. Why do we know Carnosaur? Carnosaur had the
Car-
FF trailer?
yeah, Carnosaur was a Roger Corman movie that came out the same year as Jurassic Park. It's cheap, it's bad, but it's fun. And if you got the videotape, the VHS tape, it had the Roger Corman Fantastic Four trailer on it, which is a
Right.
great trailer, by the way. It's
Right, right,
good
right.
music, it's
Yeah.
good cuts, you know. The thing I like about the Roger Corman FF movie is the Thing costume was made by the Henson Company. Henson was already dead at
Oh,
this
right.
point,
Right, right, right.
so it was a really good costume. And like in the trailer, they do a close up of Thing's face, and they got like 12 motors in the head, and he's like, "It's clobbering time." Like the mouth
Yeah, it
doesn't,
was a
it
little
almost
off.
lines up with it,
Right. Right. I
but it
like
was
that movie.
good.
Listen, that movie's on YouTube. You can watch that
You can watch it on
all
YouTube.
the time.
You can watch that trailer. You can watch another trailer in high, like somebody has it in high def. Like they found like the footage and it's really good.
Hmm. I
Um,
wonder if they I think now you can kind of upscale stuff, and there's a lot of stuff you can do now,
yeah.
visual
So
editing wise.
did that Doom movie ever come out? It was going to be a documentary because the point of that FF
Oh
movie
yeah.
was they
Hmm.
were never going to release it. It was like a scumbag move of let's film this movie super cheap. Jay Underwood was actually a popular actor at the time. If you look
Hmm.
at that cast, we should do a whole thing about the movie because he had done what The Boy Who Could Fly. He did Almost Human. Was it Almost Human where he was like an android?
Hmm.
Um, he's bald now. He lost all his hair. Join the club, Jay Underwood.
Yeah, you never saw that? They did a documentary a couple years ago called Doom. It was
Yeah,
called
I don't know.
Doomed.
You know what's crazy, Mark? I
Yeah.
don't know if I watched it or not. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've
It's
I've
fluffy.
seen so many I've
Yeah.
seen so many documentaries and short films and makings of and stuff. I'm like, I feel like I've seen it, but I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah, it's pretty good because the guy who ever see the whole thing with I
Alex
think
Hyde White was right. Bree Richards,
yeah, yeah.
who played Phantom of the Opera in the 80s.
I want to say that like the reason why I think that works and Master of the Universe works is because no one played it. They played it for real. So
Yes.
Langella took it really seriously. So that's elevated. I even think the Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia is
Rest in
playing it
peace.
straight. Exactly, but
Yeah.
he didn't know, and he knew, and I feel like both of them have a similar story where they don't even know what the property is, but some of their like kids are, and that's a lot of these things. The kids are
The
relatives
kids
or
push them,
like,
you
hey,
know.
just go do that or make a phone call or because I think Pedro Pascal talks about when he got Last of Us, he called someone and it was like his nephew, his niece or nephew or something. He's like, I don't know, I'm up for this part, and he explains like what it's about, and they're like, Last of Us, yeah, just you're doing that, like you cannot do that, you know. It's like I guess,
Who there's
um,
so many of those type of stories.
yeah,
Ugh. I'm gonna bring them up. Neil Gaiman only did the Angela
oh,
miniseries because
careful.
his kid loved McFarlane.
Mhm.
You know, that's why he's like, oh, do it, Dad. It's McFarlane.
Right.
It'll work out in the end for everyone.
Yeah, that's kind of news this week. We're actually saying let's do a non-news on that. Non-news, don't if you like Sandman, don't look up. I guess I'm telling you not to look up, and you're probably gonna look up people.
Yeah,
Don't look up Neil Gaiman accusations.
Mark, you raise girls. You literally know, like, you tell them what to do, and they will do the opposite.
I know that, but just don't. But it's just because it's like almost it's Cosby level malicious. It's bad. Don't.
It's bad. I don't know if it's Cosby
Pretty
level
bad.
because it is
Oh yeah,
bad.
yeah,
I didn't look up. I didn't want to look at everything.
yeah. At
I
a
think
certain point, I
people
think you just stop. You're like, all right, I think I'm out. I think I'm out. I think I'm
there's a
peaced out.
point where, like, I don't care what people do behind closed doors. I encourage do whatever you want to with permission, with consent.
Mm,
Like, I don't care what you do. I don't. I love you for it. Like, you make yourself happy, make her happy. Whatever you do, that's awesome. But there's a power level there that's disgusting. Like,
yeah, that's kind of
you and I've
the
been in
theme of
management.
it. Yeah.
You and I've been in. Guess what? When you're in management, people are attracted to you. When you're like when I used to do theater, when I was a lead, people are attracted to you. There's like a weird thing that comes with power, and you have to not use that for evil, you know? And that's what Neil Gaiman has a lot of power. He's famous. He's rich. This woman was like homeless, living on a beach, you know? So she's going to do whatever it takes to stay in
So
a
there's
warm
so many
house,
weird. Yeah,
fed. So,
there's a
it's
lot of weirdness. So yeah,
it
stay
is
away from it.
weirdness. Stay away from it. And
So
I've met Neil Gaiman. He did a signing at Willow Grove one year
mhm.
when Stardust came out. And it was, he I got to see professional Neil Gaiman, English, proper, talking about Miracle Man, whether or not it was going to come back, this is like 1996 or
Mhm.
1998, something like that. He signed my Stardust, drew a little star in it. Real nice guy to the fans. And then we all gathered around and he read us the first chapter. So it was
Mhm.
like a really cool evening, you know? And it's just a shame to, like, now that experience is soured. It's
Right,
soured because you're like,
right.
ugh, you know? I'd never met Bill Cosby. Actually, the people I know who did meet him, my friend used to run a Bryn Mawr stereo in Philadelphia. And
Mhm.
he's like, yeah, two people would always come in. It's like DJ Jazzy Jeff, who was awesome and friendly, super nice guy. And Bill Cosby was like a jerk.
Wow.
I'm like, Bill Cosby, like, people love you, I don't know.
My, my
People look up
favorite.
to him as a dad. He was the dad that wasn't there
Yeah, it was
for
America's Dad
America.
before, before Tom Hanks took over America's Dad. Tom
Yeah.
Hanks's house also did, somehow God likes Tom Hanks, so they didn't burn his house down. Burned a bunch of houses around him. His house is fine. Really weird. Um, but do you remember when Keenan played Bill Cosby? When Bill Cosby was when he had some statement where he's like, "Women comedians aren't funny," and then Wanda's like talked to him at like some award show, and he like just like ignored the shit out of her. So Saturday Night Live picks that up, and Keenan, who actually worked with Cosby on like
Yeah, he
Fat
he played
Albert,
Fat
right?
Albert in the Fat Albert movie.
Who basically got his start even doing a Cosby impression inside. And the reason he got Saturday Night Live, because I don't know, you haven't started that Saturday Night Live documentary yet on Peacock, right?
No, no, I want to.
So, spoilers, the first episode's about, it's called 5 Minutes, and it's all about your audition tape, your
Ooh,
audition, right?
the most tense audition like in America.
And they show auditions of people they didn't get on, like
Like the
famously,
Jim Carrey
they
and
show the
Mark.
Jim Carrey, and you hear
Yeah,
people laughing, and you see other ones people got on, and you don't hear anyone laughing. Um, and you see the Jim Carrey people are just laughing really hard at him doing stuff, and they don't for whatever reason. But Keenan wasn't doing that well, and then he did the word Camille. He said Camille, and he did something weird in it. And then Mike Shoemaker, the guy, he was basically on, I think through 2020, I think from like 83 or 84, forever. But he's like, that Camille got me. He's like, that got me, and then he got it. But my point was, they show actually on the show, they show a clip of him like punching out like a Wanda Sykes, like someone else playing Wanda Sykes, and like just knocks her out. And he's like, "Did you see that Camille?" He does Camille again, and they're like, yeah, Camille got me the
You
thing,
know, the
so
thing about Keenan is like he was a child star on that Nickelodeon sketch show.
yeah,
So
it was
it's
all that. Mhm.
and
And Good
who
Burger.
was the one he did the movie the Good Burger with? Keenan
Kel
Kel?
Mitchell.
Kel
Yeah,
Mitchell.
Keenan and
He
Kel. Mhm.
he didn't get on Saturday Night Live.
Mm.
You know, he tried out too, and he did not get it. So they broke apart that team. I don't know. I just find that interesting. Who's the husband on High Potential? What's his name? The one married to Kobe
Uh,
Smulders.
Taron Killam.
Right. He was on what, Mad TV for like a year, six
Mhm.
months. He was on Mad TV before he got on that. Like I find that
Right,
interesting. I
right.
find that
Oh, they
interesting that
show yeah, they showed Jordan Peele's audition for SNL and he didn't get it, and people were laughing at him too. Like he did this whole thing, and they were, the audition tapes that they show. I could have watched a 4-hour documentary just on audition tapes, and you can go on
yeah.
YouTube and watch. But they show audition tapes
Did they show Dave
to
Chappelle's?
people.
Because that would have been funny
No.
to line up with.
Um.
It would have funny because it lined up because he hosted it last night, which I
Right.
didn't watch
Right.
yet.
No, it's weird. There's people that are on the show now that they didn't have. Like Tina Fey didn't participate in that one. Maybe she's on the writers one. I'm not sure how
Okay.
much they shot. I feel like they should just have this show. And there's a couple YouTube guys who go through year by year, episode by episode. Because the 4 episodes they have, the first one's about auditions, second one's about writers, the third one's about more cowbell. So you're doing an hour long about one sketch. I
It's
forget what the
or
fourth one's
is it
about.
or is
Oh,
it more
the
about?
fourth one's about the weird year, which is the year I believe Lauren was not there.
Oh, oh, that's the year they brought in like Gilbert and everyone.
Yeah,
Gilbert
yeah, yeah,
Gottfried.
yeah, yeah. But you
I
you
forget
get to
that guy's name.
see uh, Julie Louis Dreyfus's audition tape, and so I'm gonna watch probably the writers today. But they're long; they're an hour 12. I think what
Was
the
that
first
the
one
Anthony?
was.
Is that the Anthony Michael Hall year and Robert Downey
Robert Downey
and
Jr. Yeah, I want to say I'm trying to think who the little guy was. It was like a little guy. Yeah, but if you think about, and again, you still have to catch up
but
on
Eddie
that
Murphy
Saturday night
too, right?
movie. I
Did
don't
he
know.
come in? I think he came in during that time, which is like the big hit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's like one of the only ones that like they kept on.
I don't remember. Yeah,
Yeah,
again,
I
like
know.
the thing is I know that I have Peacock and I could probably go back and watch. I probably need to go, unfortunately, like on the high seas, as we call it, to get certain things. I know certain episodes are not complete that they have on Peacock, so I don't love that. I just feel like you just need to put it out, and then if
Put
you
it
have
out.
to, just just put out. But you should just put up. This was the time. There's probably some offensive shit in here. Sorry. That's all. Like I feel like that even when Disney put out some Disney Plus stuff, they put out stuff that they weren't expecting, that people really weren't expecting to put out uncut, and they kind of put it as is. But then they have like Splash, and then they CGI hair on like Daryl Hannah's butt running out. Like what is what? So they have just it's so many weird things. Just put it out. Just put it out. Put a disclaimer. Like I don't think you should
Yeah,
change ratings. Like if Splash was what PG or something, now I think it's like listed as PG-13. I don't know. Really
I
weird.
don't know.
So let's get
All
into
right,
the news.
let's
We're
spiral
doing
back.
it. Here we go. What are we, an hour in already?
Oh yeah, the other
Here's
thing.
some extra art
I'm gonna post this on
things.
my Rob Messick 76. It's not just pure Liefeld, everyone. I get it.
Mostly.
Everyone knows I'm a fan, but I'm a fan of everything. This is the original art to a Marvel Tales cover that Sam Keith did. Spider-Man, Hulk. And that guy at the bottom is Wood God, everyone. Wood God. We have not
Oh
seen Wood
God.
God in a while, I believe.
Yeah, it was a Marvel premiere. I think I had that. Might even have been. Let's see if I got this right. I think it's Jack Kirby cover, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's Jack Kirby cover, probably inked by John Verpoeten. Um, yeah, when they were trying, Marvel premiere just tried a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah, why not?
So here's
All
the
right.
news of the week.
First,
Start the news of the week. And even though I said I wasn't going to bag on, I'm going to bag on Bleeding Cool, which is everyone's kind of main news. Their headline is still wrong. The story went up like on Thursday. It's now Sunday as opposed to probably Monday, but um, it's still wrong. The title is Chip Zdarsky's and Michael Cho's book for Abrams comic art delayed.
right. But it's not Chip
It's not
Zdarsky.
just Garcia. And another piece of this article, someone else writes it again wrong, and I'm like, come on, man, come on,
Yeah,
come
get it
on.
right. Chip Kidd. Chip Kidd's an incredible artist, designer. I think he designed the Jurassic Park logo, which he will live off of for the rest of his life.
Mm. He did the book cover, I believe. I think you're right. Yeah, I think
The
he
book,
did the book
yeah, the book
cover.
cover.
Yeah, I have two Chip Kid books. I have a Chip Kid by Design 1 and 2 that I got like really cheap out there, like really cheap in the world
I
somewhere.
got a Superman book, which I love. His Batman book, his Wonder Woman book. They all had
Oh
Alex
yeah,
Ross
the
covers.
history. I think that the
Yeah, the
guy
history
who
stuff. That
the photographer on those is the reason I quote unquote bake my Instagram stuff. I feel like the archival photos in those, which Chip Kid does not do. There's a guy, Jeff Spear. Let me see if I got that right. I'll put it up. Jeff
right.
Spear does all the photos in there's a Batman book that Chip Kid did where it's just Batman in Japan or something, like it's complete, but it's all
Oh
photos
yeah,
of memorabilia. And it's in that like lit sepia-esque style. I feel like everything, all photos that I take now, I just try to emulate that. I don't think I did it on
you're
purpose, but
like
one day I was looking through this. I'm like,
sepia,
oh,
sepia,
yeah,
sepia.
yeah. Contrast down or contrast up.
So, so what? So
Saturation up.
is this a graphic novel? Just a Chip
Yeah,
Kid, Michael
this is
Cho?
an original. Yeah, this is what we are in kind of a question mark of all this is that we know, the thing that we always talk about is the Kill Raven book that we were like, hey, can we get this Kill Raven book out somehow? Can we license it? Is there a
Yeah.
way
Can
that we can have it?
Can Abrams do it through their Marvel Arts?
Right.
Like, why is this a Marvel Arts and not a Marvel graphic novel? I mean, distribution is the answer. They want it at all the bookstores. It's original. I guess it's profitable because they keep doing them.
Right.
I
Yeah.
hope it's profitable because I
I
don't mind that they're doing it. It's just weird. It's just a weird way
well,
to put out a book.
yeah, I want to say I feel that there's a different licensing or there's different money that they're looking at it, I think, from as potential. I mean, again, I don't know if this is true or not, but basically, like they know how much they can sell in the book market. Abrams probably has extra money, and then Marvel will license it. Again, a lot of the doesn't Dark Horse do like the children's Star Wars books, right?
Is it
Or
or
IDW?
IDW? Yeah, IDW.
Yeah, it's one of the two, but it's
I
like,
think Dark Horse is still probably a little burnt that Marvel took that license back.
yeah, but
But IDW has always stepped in with the Marvel kids lines and the Star
yeah,
Wars
yeah,
kids lines, and they're not kids books per se. They're just all ages. You actually get some
right.
really good stories out of them. I don't read a lot of them, but like the ones I've read are pretty good. You
Yeah,
know,
I told you to read the Tales from Vader's Castle. That's the best thing that
right?
they've done, and that's all Ryan North and Kevin Scott, and
Yeah,
like there's a lot of good art. Dark Charm.
you know,
Franco Villa did a ton of work in that too,
yeah. I
and
love
it's
Francavilla.
scary. That's like this. That's scary, scary. I think I've showed some of that before. That's scary Vader, scary Vader. So
I
yeah,
love
so
Michael Cho as an artist. He does the best Silver Age covers for the and Golden Age covers, like the Superman, Batman, Shazam collections. The ones that are I don't think they've done any recently, but they it was every Superman adventure starting from Action One, Action Two, Action Three, World's Fair Comics One,
mm,
Superman One, the original stories, not the reprints. Like they do it in such a good way, and then they did it with Batman and I think Shazam, and I'm like, I hope they keep going because these Michael Cho covers are gorgeous. But you brought up a point. I'm like, have we seen him do sequential pages?
I've seen him do
I
covers.
drew
I like his there.
I drew a
Yeah,
blank. I drew a
I
blank.
don't think so. I don't think he's done it. If he's done anything, he may have done. Oh, I think he may have done a few pages in like one
Like a
of the
anthology
Detective
series.
27 or like the Detective 1027
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
like something like that. I feel like he's done 3, 4 pages. Nothing more than that, I don't believe.
Mhm.
Corrections department. So this again, all right. So this was an okay press release. This we get some art in it. This actually, I think this was probably a previous press release we missed. This article was about it's late. Next thing up, again, I this is not a press release. It is, but like they put out something about it, but I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, all right, so you have 15 countries. You put a bunch of names up there. Okay. The only thing it says Dan Jurgens Lee Weeks. Fine by me. That's fine. However, like you have no art, zero art. There's zero art for this. You mean to tell me that none of those people up there are working on anything, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's actually I'm not sure. No, those are up there. That's the Batman one. So this is barely, they're just kind of saying that this is all they're having for that the talent there. And I don't understand like why you're wasting if they do this again. Oh no, wait, sorry, this is
Wait a
coming out in
minute.
June, so they're not doing
This
it.
is ridiculous. they list all the creative teams who worked on the Batman the World.
Right.
This is the dumbest press release because I was looking at it and I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
Brian
I
Azzarello,
know. I
Lee
just got
Bermejo.
confused. Right.
I'm
They
like,
did
wait a
that.
minute. But this year, they're half of this is just about the old book.
Yeah, but this is coming out in June, and I don't think that they're doing a um. I don't know. I don't think that they're doing one for. They're not doing it for Comic Book Day. This thing.
Okay. Um,
When's Superman come out? April?
you know,
3 months late.
Superman of the World. Because Joker of the World, we got a Jeff Johns, Jason Fabic Joker story, which is a
Mhm.
Three Jokers follow up. It's almost an epilogue to Three Jokers,
Right.
right? So, like, if you're going to do a Superman of the World, give us something incredible. Like Dan Jurgens, Lee Weeks, they will give us something good. But maybe representing Scotland could be the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely unused Superman story that was supposed to be in Action Comics
Right.
1000. I'm always going to go back to that, Mark. Like, why
How
wouldn't
many
you put?
do we think there's how many pages of that? 10? We think it's at least a 10, right?
Yeah, it's at
10,
least a
12.
10 pager. Yeah, yeah. They're literally from another country.
I'll
They're
charge
both
you
from
$5
Scotland.
on that. And then you give me a bunch of process in the back. Don't care. $5.
I just want that story.
$6. Who cares?
I don't know if
Stock
it's regular
cover.
and I think it's in continuity Superman because I think they left it out because it didn't fit with the Superman story at the time. So this seems like a good place to put it.
Rob, you're talking sense, and this is not how the industry works. You understand
Mark,
this is not how it works.
sense is almost how no industry works.
No. So some of Solicits will be out next week. This was the only thing that they kind of previewed that I thought was pretty good. So this seemed a lot tighter of a Jim Lee drawing than I'm used to seeing. I don't know.
Jim,
This all just kind of worked for me, right? Whereas I feel like the other Hush thing that I saw with him jumping like this, I think is not great.
Jim Lee hyped
But I
me up
like
a little
this.
bit for this book. He was on an interview this week on the DC podcast that they put out every other week after whatever DC media is going on. And I
Yeah,
usually
it was
don't
on
like
Max.
studio. I don't usually like podcasts like this because it's
Mhm.
like too studio made. It feels too fake. You don't know if they're really fans or not. But Jim Lee was on and he was talking about how hard he's working on it and still trying to do his regular job. So he makes it sound like he's working really hard. So I look forward to this book. But the bad news was we discovered that this book's being split. We're
Mhm.
getting 6 issues this year and then 6 issues next year. That's bad news because it
Yeah.
breaks the flow of the book, breaks the momentum. I don't know who. I don't know if that person who gets stuck doing the story in between is either going to be like chastised, like, oh, this is we got to wait for Jim Lee. We get this guy,
Right,
you
right,
know,
right.
or will it help him? Like, oh, or sometimes, Mark, the story could be so good that we might not want Jim Lee back. And a great example of that is when Mark Waid left the Flash for a year. We
Mhm.
got 4 issues of Grant Morrison and Mark Miller, and then we got like 8 or 12 issues of Mark Miller. And it
Right,
was
right,
such
right.
a good story that when Mark Waid came back to do Chain Lightning, which had been the story he had been building up to the entire comic, it didn't hit us good.
Right, right, right.
It
Yeah.
didn't have that punch. So
Yeah,
sometimes
we
taking a
shouldn't
break is a bad move.
it's just you're right. It's a momentum time and remember like I think the biggest break well, again, Hush was 12 in a row, no lates, right?
Correct.
No lates. That's impressive. Okay. Um I know when we talked on the phone this week, because believe it or not, we talked probably 5, 6 hours on Sunday, and then we probably talked probably 5, 6 hours during the week.
Yeah.
So, but we talked on the phone this week. I think you said like, why doesn't anyone else do Jim Lee's job? Is Jim Lee's job that important? Isn't there anyone else like? Isn't there like a Roy Thomas or some
Yeah.
shit that's like doing? What
You're
are you doing? You don't need
what
to
are you
do this
doing?
interview. Just draw. Go to Italy or whatever, right? Does he have a house
You're
in
what
Italy?
the
Go to Italy and draw.
yeah, you're like a liaison? Like what can't
What does that
you
mean?
yeah. What does that mean? What are you actually doing? Are you just talking to people? Are you talking to Zasloff and then talking to Jeff Johns and then talking to well, you're not talking to Jeff Johns so much anymore. Talking to James Gunn? Are you that important?
Uh,
Are
what
you
what
just
what
taking phone calls?
responsibilities do you have? Can I have a list of your responsibilities, please?
Yeah.
Right? Can you list it out? Can you
Are
justify your job to me? Can you tell
you
me what you do? It's almost like an office space where he's like, tell me what you do. What do you do here? What
are you
exactly
helping
do you do here?
are you helping editing other DC comics? Are you helping the line
I'm
move
good with
forward? Or
people. I don't know. I don't know what he does. I don't know. But to me, you're right. There shouldn't be a stop. There shouldn't be like a stopgap on that. The thing I was referencing as far as like the Marvel stuff is you had Now, when they got hired, it was canceled. Mark Waid again. So Mark Waid, Ron Garney basically got hired, and it was already canceled because they already knew in the background
Yeah,
that Liefeld's coming in.
that was a dick move done by Ralph Macchio. That he's like,
Karate Kid,
oh,
Ralph Macchio.
we're going to show them. I think it's Macchio actually to differentiate. It is Macchio.
Who cares?
Um, I know because he literally had a Liefeld picture in his office with like darts in it. Like he just
Yeah,
had a
that's so
hate for
goofy.
him.
Yeah,
You're a grown man, dude. Marvel's
right.
making a decision to make more money. So when Liefeld got hired to do Heroes Were Born, Liefeld and Jim Lee, Ralph Macchio and others were like, well, we're going to show Marvel that we can do these books in house and really increase sales. So he hires Mark Waid and Ron Garney to do Cap, and they do a really good book. But the paper's already been signed, the deal's already made,
Mhm.
contracts are in. So it was never a good move. And the book it was good, and it probably increased sales by 1 or 2%.
It
You
didn't
know,
increase sales by much. I believe that on Liefeld's podcast, he had the receipts. Like
yeah,
it went up a bit, but by the time it was getting the momentum, it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit. It wasn't,
yeah.
and it's not that every book was down. It wasn't as if like that the grant and the Grunwald stuff did go down, down, down. But before, and it was kind of probably in the worst where like people bitch about like the Rick Levins era, which is like foul cap, which is not, the Cap Wolf rather. So
Yeah,
Cap Wolf
Capwolf.
people bitch about. However, everyone buys that every single time I'm out seeing somebody. Every
It's
single time.
ironically good.
Yes.
It's but people forget all those books sucked at the time. Like even though Jimmy Chung, I think, was drawing Iron Man, it was still Kid Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
It was like really, it
Right.
was
We
like a
didn't like
bad.
they didn't like the concept, but they're like, well, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Fantastic Four was in a boring spot. Iron Man's Cap. What was that? What's the other book? Avengers. I tried to like Avengers so much back then. Bob
Mm-hmm.
Harris was writing it. It just wasn't good. Mark Waid came in, I think, and wrote the last 2 or 3 issues of Avengers, and it wasn't enough to get
That
it
was
going.
to yeah, that was to kind of like usher it out. Same thing with FF. Like you have like Carlos Pacheco popping in to do like 3 issues before it's over. Wait, okay. Well, you can't gain anything there. Like you're not going to gain.
No,
That's one of my favorite
it was
issues. Is his last issue of like that FF run is like awesome looking. It's wonderful, but
yeah.
again, you're not going to get the momentum.
So
So
so people bitch about Heroes Reborn, but like those sales increased 1,000-fold,
right.
minimal, you know. And even if people didn't like the books, because especially if they all ended badly, like all the greatness of the first 6 issues, and they're fun, they're beautiful looking books.
Mm,
The back half isn't great, especially the books Jim Lee took over. I think they just don't look good. And when Marvel gets them back, it's a big to do, and those characters are never bigger. You got to remember those 4 books. Nobody cared about them. It was all people cared
right.
about at that point was X-Men, Image, and whatever DC was popular at the time. Because sometimes DC would pop with the Batman stories or Superman, but overall, none of those books were doing good. So, but ever since then, that brought the Avengers back and FF, and people love them kind of like ever since. Like the
Right.
popularity in the late '90s of those books led to the popularity of the Ultimate Universe. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
it's kind of weird because you think about the reboots that happened after that. So basically, they have this thing that at the time it was a ton of sales. Cap. But Marvel was in bankruptcy as soon as they basically started that. So the story goes essentially is that they only negotiated the first six. They had a 12, but they have like an option for the next six. Does that sound right? How did that work?
No, they had a contract for all 12, but
Okay.
they put a stipulation in like, oh, if it underperforms, we have the right to renegotiate or bankruptcy. I think bankruptcy rules kind of can do that. Like they were going into bankruptcy, you know, the sales aren't what we thought they were. They were still ridiculously high,
Mhm.
but I think Marvel expected X-Men X-Force numbers, and they just didn't. The industry wasn't in that position anymore. You were never going to get X-Men X-Force #1 numbers ever.
Right. Right.
So the contracts were they could renegotiate it, and Liefeld's like, no, I'm not taking that much less. Like it was a ridiculous, insulting amount less. That's why Jim Lee didn't put anyone of note on those books after Rob Liefeld left.
Yeah, it went to
But the
Ryan
bankruptcy
Benjamin and Michael Ryan and
and Joe Bennett,
yeah,
Joe Joe
Joe
Bennett, Tristan
Bennett
Cap.
again.
I know Joe Bennett top today. um, yeah. So when that Captain America came back
That they were just
with
like, oh,
Wade
we're
and
getting it back.
Garney,
Yeah, so Wade and Garney's coming back, but it never. The
The juice
first
was
two
gone.
issues were good, but it was gone. And then they decided to do something else with like the Cap book. So they're like, all right, we'll do it again. We'll do Sentinel of Liberty, and they tried it again over and on it for a third time,
Yeah,
and that was
which was
even
weird, a
less.
weird move. Because Sentinel of Liberty was like a Captain America book. They were going to tell different stories throughout Captain America's history, I think.
Yeah.
And Andy Kubert was supposed to draw that, but then for some reason they're like, no, we'll move Garney there and put Kubert on regular Cap.
Hmm.
Bad move. You should have launched that book with Kubert. It would have done better. I was more
Right.
excited for that.
Right. And then it
Yeah,
turned
just a
in,
weird.
and then it didn't last long, and then it turned into kind of that was that. Then it went to Marvel Universe. Does that sound right? Like,
Or was Marvel Universe a separate book? I
I
think it
guess
was
that was a
just a
separate
separate
book.
book with a similar feel, which I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that book. I think
Yeah, I
Roger
like the
Stern was
monster
helping to
one.
write. Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's exactly
monster
what I was thinking
storyline,
of.
which is Mike Manley. Mike Manley.
Like Manley and Roger Stern, great team.
All right, so here's I have issues. Okay, all right. So they announced that that they talked about the Free Comic Book Day, right? This is our first picture that
Right.
we've seen of Raphael Albuquerque. Now, my problem with this is Raphael Albuquerque was supposed to do Absolute Superman. He quit for some reason. He realized he couldn't take on whatever the work was going to be. They still use some of his designs,
Right.
um,
The
but
cape and
he's out.
such.
But he's out. So this is mentioned here. Okay. Now he also doesn't have an anchor. I wish he would get an anchor. But remember when Ramby took over Detective Comics a few years back, he was the main guy. And I think he might have done 4 issues, 5 issues, not long. And then it went to a couple other people that were, I think, not right for it. And then they figured out a way to do it. They put Ivan Reyes on right after that. And I'm like, I don't want this here. And then Ivan Reyes changed his style a little bit more. And then I liked it. And then it went to a few other people. Guillaume March, it went to, um, there was a couple extra people went on to that. But that Ram V run, which could have been like an evergreen, isn't because it changes art so many times in the first 10 issues. So the consistency is gone. So you're going to
Right.
announce this. You mentioned, we mentioned last week, we mentioned for probably since we've started that Dan Slott's been rumored to come into this. Now, here we go. So here's Superman Unlimited. Okay. So your main artist, and this like clearly is meant to emulate the Superman movie, but you're putting this out in like June, so you're late, right? Like
Right.
May. This is going to come out in June. I saw something where it said 12. Why is this called? Why can't we come up with more words, right? So there's Absolute, which was a format for
Hmm.
DC. To me, and then it was just larger books. I have a bunch of them over there. So it was Absolute Watchmen. It was Absolute Crisis. Dude, it's a format
You're right.
size,
It's a
right?
format created by Wildstorm editor Scott Dunbier
Right,
because he
right,
did it
right,
initially for Absolute Authority and Planetary. So yeah, we associate that title with the size of the book. It's a style.
right. So
So
DC comes out
DC,
with a new line and they call it Absolute, and I'm just like, I remember when they were in Ruben, I was don't call it that. Like I was like immediately, I was don't call it that. I don't want that. So for me, when I see
yeah,
Unlimited, I think of what? What do you think of when you see Unlimited? There's two
I
things.
think a Spider. I think it's the Marvel Unlimited books of the '90s. It was a quarterly Spider-Man Unlimited, X-Men Unlimited,
Mhm.
Hulk got one. They had 2099 Unlimited. To me, it's a quarterly anthology
Right.
when
Quarterly,
when a book was hot at Marvel.
glossy, Herb Trimp. I think of Herb Trimp.
Oh
I
yeah,
think of
Fantastic
I
Four
think of
Unlimited,
Fantastic Four Unlimited, which had
Mark
who did
Mark
had a
Pasella
Pasella
cover.
cover? Yeah,
Yeah,
Pasella, right? There we go. And then it had Claudia Castellini covers for like the rest somehow, right? I don't know. Amazing.
yeah.
But yeah,
Hey
so
Mark,
I
who
think of
drew
I think of it
X-Men?
quarterly. And
X-Men
then
Unlimited #1.
what there was a cartoon Spider-Man Unlimited. Am I thinking that right? That was like Spider-Man
Yes.
2099. It was like Spider-Man
It
not
w-
20 not
yeah,
Spider-Man Beyond basically is what it was, right?
yeah. They were trying to do Batman Beyond as Spider-Man. They gave him a new costume, futuristic. It's made out of spider nanites, if I remember correctly. But the problem with that, and it
Pre-nanites.
was a direct continuation of the Spider-Man animated series from the '90s, or the earlier
Mhm.
'90s. But it all took place on the alternate Earth, Counter Earth, the one that the High Evolutionary created with all the Animen and stuff.
Right. Which is in
So it was a
Guardians
weird,
3.
which is in Guardians. It's a, it's
Yeah.
a it's a dark sci-fi world to try to match the Batman Beyond feel. Yes, so those are the two Spider-Man. the two unlimiteds that I think of when I hear the word unlimited.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So like you're gonna call it Spider-Man Unlimited, but it's monthly. It's not, and it's going. And I've already. I think the version press release it was 12, so that's limited, not unlimited. Okay, so right now when they paired everything back years back, I think post I guess maybe pre 52, they canceled everything. There used to be a quarterly, which was Man Up Tomorrow. That was like when it was a
Right.
fifth week, right? And
There was a
that
fifth
was
week comic,
right. So that was
so it
that
came
was
out quarterly.
launched
That was Carl Kiesel and Tom Grummett.
right. So that was and they were a Performance Adventures Superman team. And that was good, so that was solid. But why isn't this called Man of Steel? There is no Man of Steel right now. There's no Man
You,
of Steel book.
Mark, do you know why they're not calling it Man of Steel?
No.
Because they don't want to think about the old movie. They don't want to because you're going with the new
Damn it,
Superman.
Snyder. So yeah, I didn't even think about that. Damn
Yeah.
it. So that's why we do the show. Because
Well,
I don't know. Because I'm like, here's a no-brainer, and you're like, nope, here's a brainer. Is that what we call it? A brainer? It
yeah,
doesn't make
I
sense
guess
to me.
we call it a brainer.
You're
So,
giving me the brainer.
so if you follow that line of thought, what should this comic be called?
Uh, Superman Legacy, but it can't be
Yep,
called
you
Legacy
got it.
because he took away the legacy.
Doesn't matter. Look at the comic. It's got his son in it. So
Hmm.
what speaks? It's literally a book about legacy.
Why isn't it called Superman Legacy? Oh, that's right. Because again, same thing. Snyder again. Because they don't think about what happened before. Don't think about that.
Don't
Because
think what
that
happened before.
it
But it's a
did
good.
it did hinder Superman what the Brandon Routh Superman Returns. It does hinder. It did hinder that movie because you're having echoes of Christopher Reeve. So it did hinder that I think a bit. But also, really, what hindered that movie is that he didn't punch anybody. You know.
No, it's a boring movie. It's a good
Yeah.
movie, but it's a boring movie.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Like, I like the idea of Brandon Routh being a continuation of the Donner films. I like that, but you didn't continue anything. You just repeated everything. We
Mhm.
don't want to repeat. We want to see that style of movie moved forward. And that
Right.
was another case of like, well, the next one, well, Brainiac. You've said that every Superman
We're
series, the
never.
next episode is Brainiac. Did we ever talk about
God.
this?
You
Did we
know
ever talk
what?
about this on the
Shit.
podcast?
If this Superman movie doesn't do that well, you're just gonna lose your shit, dude. Like, because
Because
if
you, because
if
you know what?
if we will not get a Superman 2, we're never getting Brainiac, bro.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's who's in Superman 2. Superman 2 by James Gunn will have Brainiac. And if this
Ugh,
movie does not do well, because they said it in Man of Steel, they said it in Brandon Routh. Shit, Superman 5 by Carol by KANE? Who were the Salkinds?
canon.
It was KANE, right? The Salkinds, Superman 5 was gonna have Brainiac, you know? So it's hilarious. Brainiac is always the promised villain of the next Superman movie that we never get. Superman lives, Brainiac.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so back to this comic. Superman Legacy, a better title than Superman Unlimited. What's
Yes.
unlimited about it?
Nothing.
It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad word for
I
this comic.
I don't know. Again, so I'm having a couple problems right off. Number one, yeah, I don't like the title. Number two, Raphael Albuquerque's a problem. Okay. Give him an inker. Give him
Because you,
Daniel Henriquez, right? Who inked over Philip Tan on Ronin Rising or whatever the heck it's called, Ronin 2, whatever the heck that's called.
yeah, he's a
Um,
solid anchor.
you need a sloppy-ish inker, but clean, right? Um,
What he's doing is I
Danny
feel
Miki, right? You
what
can even do it. Danny Miki line could go here too.
what is Mickey doing?
I don't
I
know.
feel like this needs to have some edge to it. I feel like he's trying to do what like Francis Manapul does, but Francis
Mhm.
Manapul is like kind of perfect at it.
Yeah,
And I think other people who always try to do that, and they never quite succeed. It's a little too much shading. I don't know. I like my comics inked dark.
yeah.
Just it's
But
just a thing.
again,
My
so
personal thing.
so we have crypto in there. We got Lois with the purple eyes. I don't. We have to do an episode on when did Lois get purple eyes.
Right.
Lois purple eyes. You got. But who is next to Jimmy? What the
No
heck is it?
idea. Mr. Potato Head.
It's like a sloth or something, right? It's like it's you know what? I don't care because I want to see some one thing whether you could you like or not like slot stuff. There's going to be like a little of humor in it that typically works. I feel like all the Spider-Man stuff for him always had something a little bit humorous in it. It never really
Yes.
didn't work. You know when it didn't work? When he didn't do it, when he did Iron Man. It wasn't funny. There wasn't any weirdness in it per se. And then it didn't work. So get weird. Like get weird. look, I don't know. I feel I can't really think about when I think about his era of Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man. I'm happy about it. I have fond memories of that, right?
Right.
You
Then
know, I
Peter
have
becomes
some
the
good
straight.
bits of that.
He becomes the straight man because it's it's Doctor Octopus, and he's just
Hmm.
so ridiculously pompous. Like the
That
wackiness.
concept, listen, that's a lightning. That's like a that's a lightning in the bottle. That shouldn't have worked. They shouldn't have approved that, and that shouldn't have worked, and it did.
It
And it's
worked
still
totally.
popular enough that they still do mini series of that, and it's still success. It still sells.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. People.
that's, you know,
He got death threats. He had to have security at signings for a little while
right. So to
because
kind of
people
again,
hated it so
we
much.
only we're so in, so we should explain what that means. So in Amazing Spider-Man, Dan Slott had 5 year run, had a really long run,
Right.
and during that time, there was a basically like a mental battle. There was basically a battle with Doc Ock. Doc Ock dies,
Hmm.
but somehow I don't even remember exactly how, but the Doc Ock consciousness went into Peter's body.
Right.
So the win of Doc Ock is that Doc Ock body is dead, but he's taken over Peter's life and brain.
Correct.
But Peter's still in there.
Because you gotta remember, as awesome as a villain as Doc Ock was with his incredible arms, especially when they were adamantium, he's still just a human. There's nothing extra special about his body. So every punch is is like brain damage, you know?
Mm.
So that's what was killing him. CTE, is that what the football
Yeah,
is
I
that
think
what
that's right.
football
Yeah,
players
yeah,
get?
right.
So he got that a lot. So it
That's
eventually,
really great. It's such a fun, and I think he's back now, but I don't even know how he came back. Doesn't matter.
because
But
he was cloned, he cloned his body once and had a Peter Parker body. He
he's
tried to come back as the Superior Spider-Man on his own, and it was good. And then I guess he got killed again, but now his brain, his consciousness is in back into a fat, an oversized body. Um,
right. But when the book was relaunched as Superior Spider-Man, like it was like a couple years before Spider-Man came back. But when
it
it
was like
first
30 issues.
happened,
It's like 30 issues.
yeah, that's a while. That's at least 2 years, and that had early Ryan Stegman art. But when it happened, yeah, there was a lot of angry fans that, luckily
This
they
isn't my
didn't do
Spider-Man.
anything, completely horrible to him. But yes,
Just
there were death
threats.
threats and, but still that's all of it's a scary world. So again, not sure. My nervous is not about Dan Slott. Dan Slott can put it out. He can put it out. And I think because he'll be inspired here and fresh, he won't fill in. Dan Slott gets a lot of bad flack because unfortunately they made this weird documentary, which none of them were. The only one that was good was the first one, which was about Japanese Toho Spider-Man. That's it.
That was great.
Other than that, they're all bad. But there was
Actually,
an
I forgot what the
episode.
rest were. I
The one
couldn't
was
tell
a Paul
you.
Scheer Brute Force, which
Oh yeah,
was
that was good.
okay.
Did you read that Brute Force comic? It was actually kind of funny.
No, he
He,
eventually wrote it, correct?
yeah, he wrote it.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, I
a
should go back.
Paul Scheer is such a comic fan, and on his own, he's really funny. Did you watch it? He had a Comedy Central show or Adult Swim show. It was like NTSFSDSUV.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
if I
He had a
got
bad
that right,
wig too. Yeah.
he had an awesome bad wig.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was basically a
A
spoof on
parody of
CSI.
Law and Order.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think he had the sunglasses. He did the Dave Caruso like fast sunglasses
all
off
the
and
time. I
everything.
loved it.
So really good. Now I listen to his podcast, listen to How's This Kid Made, which tours, and I think they're in Philly a little bit from now. I wouldn't mind going to one of
Yeah.
those because they seem really, really funny.
I
So
just
I
listened to
listen to
the
that.
Jaws 4 episode, which I've been wanting to
Oh
listen to
my God.
for
Yes.
years, because I love
Yes.
Jaws 4. Growing up poor, I tell the story sometimes. My grandmom was the only one who had cable and the only one who had a VCR. Okay. So she would tape sometimes stuff off First Run, which was what was our cable company called back then?
Oh crap. It
It was
wasn't
before,
Comcast.
it was before Comcast came in, before Garden State Cable came in, even.
Yeah, I remember. I
So,
just remember the channels. We had Prism, which was a Philadelphia cable channel, right?
right. So
Which was
First
like
Run,
HBO.
you would pay a little extra, $2, $3, and you could watch a movie at a certain time. So she would always record those movies for us. But we just had this string of fours. I had Jaws 4, Police Academy 4, Superman 4, like, and those movies I've seen 100, 200, 300 times. She also taped Transformers, the movie, for me off of Fox 29, which
Oh, okay.
we'd have some incredible footage from. We're going to share at some point.
Hmm.
So Jaws 4, I've seen 100 times. So listening to that podcast, How Did This Get Made? They ripped that movie so good. It's a great podcast. So now I'm
Yeah,
like, did
they
they
do a
do
lot of
Superman
research on
4?
it. They just did they did Trap, which was really good too. They did the Shyamalan Trap movie, and they just like love it, and just it makes no sense. I don't think you've watched that yet, right?
Is that the
Maybe.
one they filmed at a town over from where I deliver? He's a M. Night Shyamalan. He likes to film in Philly, but also
Mhm.
he films in New Jersey. And there's a really wooded area town called Tabernacle, which I think is where he filmed a lot of that at.
Right, that's right. Yeah,
So it's funny. When he was doing that show, was it called Servant?
yeah, yeah.
Um, my uncle was selling this bed, and it was like a had a weird ornate wooden design with like a pineapple on it. It was my cousin's childhood bed, and somebody bought it. He's like, "Oh, this for your kid?" He's like, "Oh no, we film a show called Servant, and we just wanted this bed for like a scene." I'm
My
like, "All
God,
right, that's awesome."
that's funny. That's in the
Yeah,
show.
M. Night Shyamalan.
All right, so
So
yeah,
Superman Unlimited, I'm excited about it. I want a new Superman book. See, we do this. We're supposed to be a positive podcast, but like what it's coming down to is we're such a opinionated, history driven.
mhm.
We see the overall picture, and sometimes we're wrong, you know. But like to me, the better idea for this comic book would have been Superman Legacy. I don't know if there's ever been. I feel like there's been a one shot called Superman Legacy, but grabbing the Unlimited title just doesn't
Yeah.
feel right.
There was,
Just
I think,
like,
the Superman Legacy. That was, I think, the Alex Ross like lenticular cover, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's right.
yeah, Man of Steel's out. We can't use Man of Steel. But Unlimited, yeah, it doesn't feel right. Just like you said, Absolute doesn't feel right.
No.
Hey,
Um,
do you think when the Justice League finally forms in the Absolute world, they call them the Absolutes?
like they call Ultimates.
Like
I don't know.
yeah,
I
like they
just,
call the Avengers the Ultimates.
yeah, it's a problem. I don't know. To me, like
I'm
they're putting
I'm
themselves in the corner.
I'm
And
calling that
here's,
here.
I also don't know what else everyone is going to be doing, like per se. Like, see, the problem is that like you're kind of A-listing. I think the absolute where I think Scott Snyder, and Dragata, that's A-list, right? Jason Aaron's kind of A-list, but it would have been A-list if it
He
was
he
Raphael Albuquerque. But unfortunately, you get, I mean, you still got a good second. You got Rafa Sandoval, okay, right? But that's bordering on
he's like B
B-list,
plus.
right?
He's
But
but
it's off.
Jason Aaron's A
Jason
list for
Aaron would
sure.
be A, sure, but then you have Kelly Thompson, which is it again. I feel like that Wonder Woman book is better than Wonder Woman. So Absolute Wonder Woman is by far, and Hayden Sherman's an X Factor. So that is them being like that's their spotlight. They're promoted up. They got promoted.
Yeah,
It's the
they're
best
both.
Kelly Thompson. It's the best. It's the best Kelly Thompson ever, and it's the best. Well, Hayden Sherman's just blossoming. So
Yeah,
I'm good. So I guess, and again, if you're making this book's coming out late. It's coming out too late. Number one. Number two, it's coming out because it's coming out in like June, right? This movie comes out in
right.
April.
Which is a month.
This should
It
be.
comes out the month before
You
the
didn't know this
movie.
movie was coming out. You knew this movie was coming out. You didn't know. So to me, there's a lot of mistakes. Jim Lee should have been working on Hush 2 earlier, so there was no break. This should have been out in March. Okay, it should be out in March. It's not.
Why? So you have a trade by July?
Um,
Because they
uh,
say this is the Superman year. Like DC's going to focus on Superman this summer,
it's
which
already
they
too
should.
late. Yeah, but they should. But we already talked about it. So they should have already had an All Star Superman 2.
Yeah.
That should have been in the works 3 years ago, right? That should have been in the works. Or and I heard this on a podcast this week. Why, if they're doing 12 issues of reprints of Batman Hush, you're doing
Right.
facsimile editions. You couldn't do 12 issues of All Star Superman. Just put them out. You already own it. Put it
Yeah.
out. Foil
Jimmy
cover.
J was saying that,
Just
like, yeah,
yeah,
foil cover. Give me
just
12
foil
foil
cover.
covers and I will sell the shit out of them.
Give me 12 absolute or give me 12 noir editions. There's not a noir edition of All Star Superman, correct? I don't think there is. I don't believe so.
Yeah, I guess. You know,
Just do it. Yeah.
I don't love noir editions. I like the color.
No, I understand. But like
But you know what? But there are people who do. So I would never
just
take
put
away
them
from other
out.
people. Put
They
something
put
out.
out they're on second or third prints of noir editions for that we'll talk about print watch in a little bit, but like just look, if you it's just printing money. It's printing money. You're putting out Crisis again, just print money. You
Yeah.
got it. You got actually I haven't seen any of those, but I'd be curious with the coloring that I talk about that a little bit later. So I don't know. Again, just a lot of mistakes. All right, so Nacelleverse is still kind of petering along. The Great GARLOO. I don't know who this would be for.
People who are slightly older than us. Who do you know that knew about the Great Garloo?
Howard Stern is 80 years old, I think. That's the only person I've ever heard about talked about the Great GARLOO because he had the toy when he was a kid that he really wanted it and his mom bought it for him. It's his like one fond memory. It's the only way I know about it. His one fond memory that he's ever said because he has
I,
poor
I
memories of childhood.
I almost thought the Great Garloo was made up. Like when this Nacelle started. And Nacelle, for those who don't know, the guy who does is his name here? Is it Brian
Brian
something or other?
Volkweiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a show, The Toys That Made Us.
Mhm.
Phenomenal show. So the guy's really knowledgeable about toys. He went and got several properties from different IP owners to try to make this Nacelleverse.
Mhm.
Nacelle is his company name, which is also the name of the Star Trek Enterprise engine. They're called nacelles.
Okay.
That's
I
where
didn't know
that's
that.
where he
Okay.
got the name from, which is
Nice.
amazing. You're allowed to do that. I don't even is nacelle a real word? I don't know.
Don't know.
So I dig it. I dig the ideas. So you got Biker Mice from Mars. You got Mighty Max Robo Force, which is the toy line that we knew about. Sectars we knew about. I didn't know about the Great Garloo.
Power Force.
Just right.
The only
He's just
reason I know
something.
about Power Force, I never had Power Force, but I had an issue when I was a kid. I had Power Force number two when it was a Mark Sierra interior. I'm like, this guy's interesting, and I'm one of my favorite artists of all time. So
There's still more other toy lines that I would love to see, but I think they're owned by like I don't know who owns Centurions. I don't know who owns
hmm.
Inhumanoids. I
Centurions
actually have
would fit well into this. Yeah, I think that would work.
yeah,
Sure.
Inhumanoids. I love the Humanoids.
Oh, right,
Um,
right.
Visionaries, I think is Hasbro. Visionaries didn't work. They gave them a full cartoon comic. They tried to push that like Transformers, but like the people our age, the Transformer age, was already kind of getting out of toys when that
Mm,
came out, and the next generation didn't really tie in until like Turtles and Power Rangers hit. Like
right.
Turtles and Power Rangers, even though we love them as ideas, like we love Turtles more, that's more millennial, and you know, Visionaries was like in between Gen X and millennial. It's interesting. It's a lot of stories to be told from this. So is this Adam Polina?
That's Adam Polina. Yeah. So I grab the covers. I think on all, or I grab the covers at least for that one. Yeah, that's Adam
Okay,
Polina. So that's
I
really cool.
love Adam Polina.
I just
He
saw yesterday. I saw some. What was it? Big Bang Baby or something? There was a book that DC had that Adam Polina like. It was like a wrestler,
huh,
and
that
I
sounds
don't.
familiar.
Yeah, it was a DC book, and it was like 12 issues because I didn't see all of it, but I was at a con yesterday and Elks Lodge, baby, Elks Lodge. But they had a handful of issues, but the covers were really dynamic. The covers
I
were
like this
really
cover a lot.
good. These Adam Polina covers for this book was a not this book, but the Big Bang Baby, or whatever the heck it was called. It was a wrestling book. I wonder if Walt read it. But it was like they almost look like cover. They almost look like adverts for the fight. Like it was just like a fight poster, kind of like all of them, and it was like 12 issues or something.
All right,
But I almost had all of them, but I didn't see one, two, or three, and I'm like, all right, I'm
let's
not going to
let's
get
spew
into
out a
the
little
series.
Adam Polina
So,
here. We knew Adam
mm,
Polina because he took over X Force while Jeff Loeb was writing it.
mm.
That's where we fell in love with him. Prior
And
to that, he
then
had done some Chromium Man.
Chromium Man, yeah,
Yeah,
which was a series that they would number their books,
yeah. They would individually number each comic
and it would say
like
the
a
print run
stamp.
like 10,000, and the stamp would be on of that. So not much
It
extra that cost. It seems it was unique. It was unique. I have some. I have some of them. I have a couple of
yeah,
them.
but his artwork was pretty solid on that. Like you could tell where he was coming from, where he was going. When did he do Loose Cannon after X Force?
I am not sure. Yeah, I just thought about that. I'm not too
Or
sure.
because well, Loose Cannon was created by Jeff Loeb in a Superman. I think it's the only Superman he wrote prior to him taking over the book with McGinnis years later. But he did a Superman annual. DC was doing a year of New Blood, where every annual had a new character, just like Marvel had done. Loose Cannon was created by Jeff Loeb, and I forget who drew that issue. But then when they did a miniseries, it was Adam Polina. Still Jeff Loeb. So Adam Polina goes to Extreme Studios to get a job. Like he goes over there, and Live was like, yeah, we'll hire you. You know, we'll pay you this much or whatever. I'm sure it was a good amount. And then Liefeld hears him on the phone. He's like, oh, can I borrow your phone? And he's talking to a guy. He's like, all right, Extreme offered me this much so I could, take that back to Marvel. Like here, Polina didn't really want to work for Extreme. He was just going there to kind of threaten
Oh, I
Marvel
remember this. Yeah,
to
yeah,
make more money. And Liefeld was telling the story to Jeff Loeb. And Jeff Loeb's like, yeah, I was the guy on the other line.
yeah.
Too
Um,
funny. He did do a book for Image though. I think called Hell Cop. Was it Hell Cop?
That sounds right. Yeah.
But the problem with it was the dialogue was underneath the panel. Like they didn't use dialogue word balloons. It was just like almost like a movie, like a like how they would adapt movies sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. So that was 95. So June says through September 95 was Jeff Loeb, Adam Polina, and that's with Mullet Superman. So, but I'm not seeing. You're saying he was in Loose Cannon was in the annual, was in Bloodlines.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think he's like purple on the cover. I think he's like stomping down towards Superman.
Did Polina do that issue?
Oh, was it Cyborg Super? Was it? It might have been when it was the four Supermen during the reign of the Supermen.
Ah, okay.
It wasn't Cyborg. I think it was the one with the glasses,
The Eradicator.
the Eradicator. Yeah. Yep.
I can't
So, but
tell.
yeah, this is a cool cover. Adam Omega looks cool. I guess that's just a cowgirl. I don't know what comic she's from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Great Garloo. Sektar's chick looks really Adam Polina. Like it looks like good 90s Adam Polina.
Yeah, I think the I don't know. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, again, I think eventually they're supposed to move them all together. They had like a Nacelle Zero, which had a bit of everything in there.
Right. It was
So,
Garloo going from world to world.
mhm. So I don't know exactly what this is going to be. So here's the print watch stuff I was talking about. So again, Batman one, Absolute Batman fifth printing. Again, all the printings are doing slight variations of things, you know.
Yeah.
So and I don't know, like fourth, I mean, this is just crazy, you know, Absolute Superman, third printing, cover B, black and white cardstock, like just
Mm.
it's again just printing money. But their second and third and fourth and fifth, like they're and even with Transformers, I was at Heroes in Mount Holly. Is that Mount Holly? No, it starts
Uh,
snowing.
Lumberton.
Lumberton, yeah, uh but they had the multiple printings. They had like an Energon section and they had tons of one through like six was there. I think 12 or
These
13 came out at that time.
these variant covers are so good. Like, and that's and I hope people keep buying them as long as they
Yeah.
can afford them. But I hope people are displaying them. I'm a big display. Like when I get something I love to like display it for a little while until something new comes out. So I hope these people aren't just bagging boarding, put them in a box. There's nothing more
No.
boring than
Yeah, I've
bagging boarding,
seen
putting in a box.
I feel like the absolute stuff should be out. Like that's the way Final Boss had it. They had that. I featured that in a previous. So yeah, just keep printing them. That's fine. So absolute number fourth printing. Okay. Um, Absolute Wonder Woman second printing, third printing number one, second printing, just print money. So
Yeah.
Skybound Image Nuts, five one shots, silent missions. You know what's so funny is that I and constantly in boxes, there's not a good issue 21 reprint. There was, I think, a trade that IDW put out because they did put out like I think like something similar to this where I think they had a miniseries that was like all silent also. Then they put out, I think, a trade of that, if I'm not
I
mistaken. And then,
know when Devil's Due got to their issue 21,
mhm.
they homaged it. I think they got a Mike Zeck cover and they did a silent issue.
Okay, okay.
So
And that was
that's
just
a
with the
new,
regular artist. It was
that
the
was with
regular
the,
series artist.
yeah, the regular series artist. Yeah.
So what's cool here is that yes, they're doing like a replica number of 21. Great, you know, but they're calling it the Silent Missions edition. Great. I didn't realize. Yeah, so that's Ed Hannigan cover, but all the whole thing with that book is that it's just Larry Hama's book, written and drawn by Larry Hama, right? Um, so that's fine. That's great.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Beachhead number one, Phil Hester, Lee Lowridge. And then they have these alternate covers, which are fine, and I have a collection of
So
that.
this is a, this is the one shot that takes place in the real American Hero universe, the Marvel universe, the
Yeah,
Larry
no, I
Hama
think it's
universe,
yeah. So it's going to be the Larry Hama universe, but they're all. What's cool
the,
about this is
the
that like they're
Hamaverse.
all
Can we start
artists.
calling it that? The Hamaverse.
I think just we did the A. I don't know. I think they just lab it as A Ra,
All
Real
right.
American Hero. But yeah. So, but basically, but it's cool that there's no writers that like they're just like, hey, Phil Hester is a writer, but like, hey, Phil Hester, you're doing this book, right? Okay, great. Um, Second one, GI Joe, Jinx. That's Danny who has done. she's done. There was a bunch of backups that she's done in Detective Comics, but I feel like there's a book that she's done for Image that I want to say Image or Dark Horse or something that
Oh,
was
I see. It's five
yeah.
one shots, and each one will have a letter cover, like
Mhm.
GIJOE. All right, that's cool.
And then so there's the Phil Hester,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
pretty. It's pretty
which is
awesome
good.
looking.
I gotta get it better. That's Danny. Uh, again, very who's very Victor Santos, very like Frank Miller-ish style,
It
like
does
very
look like
hard
Frank
line.
Miller. This
Um,
small image that I'm seeing, and everyone hopefully will see a bigger image when
yeah,
we.
I'll fix it.
All
Yeah,
right, it looks Frank Millerish. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. Leandro Lee Leonardo, I would say
Leonardo,
Leandro, Leonardo Romero, who did all the character designs for the new Spider-Man cartoon that's starting in like a week or two.
cool.
Romero and Chris Samnee did a bunch of art so for that series. So, but the biggest news, so that's good. So, but the biggest news for us is the roadblock that it is basically it's by the Bloodrick creator, Andrew Krunke. So there's Romero, great. It'll be real
Beautiful
nice
spirit
and
cover.
smooth,
Yeah,
clean. But we're most excited about this. We were the first people to see him on, I think, Saturday when we went to Baltimore Comic Con. We went to his table
yeah.
first because he was holding for me um, a limited edition cartoonist kayfabe Bloodrick print, which I'll put up here. Um, but yeah, so he's known for this is the second print cover of this. I actually have a Bloodrick red print of this. I have the cartoonist kayfabe print, also, which was a limited for Ed Con in Pittsburgh. So we're big fans. Again, this guy came out pretty true, like fully formed. I know he did some ash cans himself, and he still owes me a Bloodrick one, no problem. I still need to get with him about that, like an
Yeah.
initial black and white printing of that. He says he has them somewhere. Um, but I
Bloodrick, for
do.
those who don't know,
It's a great
it it's a
book.
great story that combines elements of Conan and what's the short story I told you about right away that reminded me of? I forget it offhand. Like the Search for Fire. No, not the Search for Fire. Oh well, but it's
Andrew
good.
Cronky.
It's a good book, and
Yeah,
the
so
artwork's incredible. So we're excited about this Roadblock comic.
and the colorist there, that's Francisco Galicia. That's the one who does the real American Hero now. So hopefully that person will kind of do some of the coloring tricks that I like that they do now in Real American Hero. So we're this is to me this is like
Right.
one of the good guys, and the whole thing is Skybound. Did Skybound do this? No, I guess that's Image proper. But we like Skybound because well, lots of reasons, but they really keep the artists in work.
Yeah.
They whether it be Otley, whether it be the just all their artists have kind of continued through. Dan Warren Johnson started basically at Skybound.
Yeah.
Keep those guys going, so that's really really fun.
I was glad they hired Paul Pelletier to fill in some issues for GI Joe, and now he's doing some fill-in work for Ghost Machine for Jeff Johns' company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like Pelletier. I've been talking to him. I've been friendly-ish with him for a long time. I went to like 3 or 4 megacons in a row in the early 2000s, back when CrossGen kind of ruled it,
Hmm.
and Pelletier signed with CrossGen, and that's when his artwork went through the roof. Like every artist who went to CrossGen. In
Right.
fact, Pelletier drew the Mark Waid chain lightning story that we were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
right? And he
Yeah,
was
that's right.
kind of like he was a little bit boring then. In fact, Pop Man was drawing it with Miller, and he had a really cool style. But like Waid didn't like Pop Man's style at the time, so he brought in Paul Pelletier, who did fine. But when Pelletier went to CrossGen, he got upped big time. So since then, I've been kind of friendly with him. And he was like kind of not working at one point. He's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. And I'm like, really? Like your Aquaman stuff looks really good because he followed Ivan Reyes. He was doing
Right.
some Batgirl work, I think. I think he had done Hulk work for Marvel in the past. So I'm glad to see him doing stuff for Skybound and Ghost Machine.
Yeah, again, we want to keep these guys working. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's the thing is like when originally it was like I'm a big fan of Chris Mooneyham, so when they were like fill in Paul Pelletier, I was like, man, that style's so different. Couldn't you? I don't know. It just seems very different, and it fell right in line. A lot of it had to do with that Segala coloring too. I think the
yes,
coloring carried a bit too, but I didn't. It wasn't I wasn't when Mooneyham came back. It wasn't like, oh, thank God he's back. Not that at all. Like I was very pleased with all the Peltier stuff. So that was
Yeah.
really
Who
wonderful.
does who does book 8? Oh, Duke. Okay.
Duke, yeah. So Wes Craig. So that's cool. Again,
Oh, that's
Wes
awesome.
Craig, um, who I feel is just this. Again, Wes Craig was the better flip book of the DC All In. It was the New Gods, and maybe Wes Craig will do potentially some of the New Gods stuff because every issue of New Gods, which we'll talk about in reviews day this week, there seems to be a 3 to 5 page prologue per issue.
Right.
It was different artists this one, but maybe if Wes Craig can come kind of jump into a 5 page, keep Evan Cagle drawing his 19 pages. But yeah, so Wes Craig, so again, also great. And hope I'm sure. I mean, because I think the whole thing is, I think he loves the work he's doing for Kaya. I haven't started Kaya at all. Again, I almost feel like because of the way my brain works, I need it to end.
Get it.
The only
I get
things
it.
I'm reading are just characters that I've read for years. As I'm in my late 40s, I can't like read something and follow the same trail if I haven't read it for multiple years. That's
You
just
got to be in the right mood. Got to be in the right mood.
old man stuff. Um, so this was the most meta trailer I think I've ever seen because like literally it starts off with, well, they do a little bit of a hallway, right? So
Right.
the staples of this is Daredevil Born Again.
Right.
Um,
They dropped the trailer for the new series that comes out March 4th. Yeah, March 4th.
yeah, March 4th. Yeah.
So it's a trailer worth watching. In fact, if you haven't watched it, stop listening to us.
Go watch it.
Go watch it, and then come on back.
It's weird.
Now that
They're
now
calling
that
it
you're
Born
back,
Again. Yeah, they're calling it Born Again, but Born Again basically was season 3 of the Netflix Daredevil. So they're
correct.
only calling it Born Again because it's a good title. It's not going to be the same storyline. It's actually the Charles Soule storyline with that like scary white negative space
Muse
guy. Yeah, with the eyeballs and
with a.
stuff.
You know what's funny is there's a character in Youngblood that looks just like that in the last Youngblood run. I don't know who came out first.
Hmm.
They probably came out about the same time,
Right, same.
but
Yeah.
similar. White face, blood eyes.
Yeah, scary character, and that was Ron Garney. So that was Soul Ron
Yeah,
Garney.
I was.
Ron Garney again. Um, Now the funny part about this is that, well, again, very meta because essentially uh, Kingpin tells Matt, he's like, it's been a while, and then kind of feel it's been a few years. So it seems like they're almost like the years from season 3 to this, they're just going to have it be that everyone aged that amount of years, now, they basically use that as a storytelling usage where, okay, Kingpin's now, he's the mayor. So which they've done Mayor Fisk in the Daredevil books.
Right, right.
So that all
You
kind of
know,
works.
Carl Kiesel got turned down. He wanted to do a Mayor Murdoch, like Matt Murdock running for mayor of New York,
Okay.
which is a weird idea. Also would have worked, but then when we got the Joe Quesada, Kevin Smith storyline, it's like, oh, the mayor idea sounded stupid compared to both ideas are good,
Hmm.
but people like Daredevil seems like Daredevil better when he's like broken,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, oh, it's been a couple years, Daredevil, except for the time I banged She-Hulk. But other than that,
Right. So the only thing that's odd about this, and again, we won't see it if we can just have someone just leak whatever was already done
yeah,
for the Lost Daredevil season. So they were working on like 18 episodes and they shot a bunch of them and they edited some stuff together. But that series did not have Foggy or Karen in it, and
bad
that's
moves. That
right.
was
So
it was a total reboot. They were going to
yeah,
say the Netflix series doesn't count. 3 episodes. I don't think he shows up as Daredevil for like 3 episodes,
nope,
and it was more doing courtroom drama than Daredevil stuff.
nope,
Um, Now there should be a better mix in there of that. So, and it was funnier, or at least
nope,
trying to be funnier.
right, no,
Um, Now all these elements should be in Daredevil, but like a better mixed
sometimes.
ratio. Sometimes funny, sometimes you need funny to like break the bleakness of like what Daredevil has to go through sometimes. Foggy's your comic relief,
Yeah, Foggy. That's right.
you
Yeah, that's
know.
right. John Favreau, the first Foggy was the best. Maybe not the best Foggy, but like again, there's not the Elton Hansen is great as new Foggy, but
Yeah,
yeah, but Favreau Foggy was just really fun. That was
yeah,
ridiculous.
because you hired an actor who's also a writer.
Mhm.
and a soon to be director. So like John Favreau was like almost too perfect as Foggy.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was perfect. He absolutely he probably made that movie better that we don't know about.
yeah. Very textured helmet here. I just don't understand. You can't put the double D on him. I don't know. This costume even doesn't have it. Again, just do it.
Just do
Just
it.
do it. Not even on the not like it just seems like every time they almost do it, they chicken out. So like the Ben Affleck costume, they have like a double, they have like a D over here.
So they
Like,
so the first show wasn't doing good. People know. I don't know. I think as they're watching the dailies and stuff, nobody's appreciating it. So they call up. I don't know who totally redid it, but they called up the action director who did the hallway scene, who was from Spartacus. He's probably one of Stephen DeKnight's
mm,
boys. He came back and redid all the action. So the action for this series is going to like blow our minds.
okay.
Um, and that same guy, I forget his name right now. He's actually wants to direct the Bloodstrike movie. He's actually good buddies with Liefeld. Take a shot.
Mm.
Um, so he's doing, and I've seen some. You've seen the footage, right?
Yeah, the proof of concept blood strike that they did. Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be if that movie comes out, it's going to be brutal, and this
Uh,
show's going to have some brutal stuff in it.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping that that's good. I think this may have already been out. Again, I'll always be
Take a
plugging
take a
my
shot.
my Conan Scourge of the Serpent. So every free comic book day consistently, and I don't know if this Roberto Del Toro art's been out before. I'm not sure. I just saw it again this week, and I wasn't sure if it was out. It wasn't. I don't think it was colored this way. It just looked a little bit different to me for whatever reason. Anyway, um, but yes. So this is just basically just so I can talk about Conan again. That's all really. So, but
Yeah,
I'm excited because
this
again,
is here.
there's always like a next, and then again, also a little bit different is this feels like Conan when it was in the 130s ish, 130 to 190. Basically, he gets like a shirt. So Conan until that didn't have that. So I feel like they're moving into different eras of Conan in this run, complementing the first run, but and then they'll just basically do like a year-long storyline almost from this, which is just really, really fun. Um, and then okay, so this was some updates. Yeah, so this must have been something. This must have been some updates this week.
All right, so free comic book
Um,
day. They're showing us a Random House children's book, Dr. Seuss collection.
Yeah, so of course the Dr. Seuss drawing we see there, of course we could recognize that that's an Al Balthazar, right? But it
Right.
just said when I looked at the writer artist, it says James Kolchaka, who it's Monkey versus Robot. I have a pretty big James Kolchaka collection over
He
the
is
years.
James Kolchaka. I'm a hardcore James Kolchaka fan to a point. Like there was a point his first 5 or 8 years, like everything he did was just great,
Mhm,
inventive, funny, sometimes dirty. Like he had a really cool sense of humor. But when he went to do children's books, something happened and it kind of ruined a lot of his stuff.
mhm.
Like I feel like I even like this weird music.
Oh,
I
really?
kept
I
I
don't think
kept
I've
oh
ever
yeah.
heard
Oh yeah, it's pretty
it.
good. It's pretty there are songs that are good. His voice is like weird. Sometimes it's good. A lot of times it's not good. They're inventive songs, they're quirky, they're fun. Some are good. Monkey vs. Robot is like infamously famous among comics
Yeah,
fans.
that's really good, but to me, like I almost feel like I fell off when we did like the second Monkey versus Robot.
No,
Like this,
100%.
like I
Crystal
was
of
like, oh,
Power?
I don't want this at all. Like I don't want.
No,
And then he did Super Fuckers, which I didn't think was very funny either. I didn't
it's
like
not
any of
funny.
that.
No,
It's all
he did. Yeah,
he was
everything.
doing like an Avengers Legion type of show, like called Super Fuckers, and it was. I felt like it was almost like Youngblood and like X Force. It was just kind of like be like a parody of the superheroes, but it wasn't funny. It wasn't particularly. It just didn't resonate with me. So I think I stopped. I just stopped. I
Yeah,
think at that point.
something happened between the two Monkey vs. Robots where it was just a drop off of what I enjoyed. Like
I
he's
think
got a lot
it
of.
was Ian Harker. Me and Ian met him, and we asked him if he liked bacon, and that just broke his brain.
I
He
met him a
said, "I
bunch of
like
times. I have a
bacon."
bunch of sketches by him. Like I did really enjoy like his independent stuff. Like he would put short stories in uh, Small Press Expo did an anthology every year, and he always had a story in it that was like really good. His one shot comics Mermaid is great. He did a book called Monica Story, which
Mhm.
is his version of the Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal. Like all that stuff is really good. And then yeah, when he does that sequel to Monkey vs. Robot, I feel like it's just downhill. He does this
Yeah.
series of children's books called Mr. Boo that like I would even read to like a 2 year old. Like they just weren't good.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
don't know. I hate
Well,
to I hate to crap on him completely.
but you know, look,
He did a
adapt
daily web
and
strip for like 10, 15 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you know how much work that is? It's work just to post stuff. But like, you imagine having to sit there and draw it, color it, letter it, post it,
yeah. Because he
and
would do
then
full color on that, and then they would the sketchbook diaries they would put out
yeah,
in black and white. But he when he posted on the web comics, it was like it was full color. But I mean, for me, whenever I see stuff like this, I'm just like, hey, keep getting paid. You know what I mean? Whatever you
yeah,
got to do, you know, keep getting paid. If you're stretching here, you know,
yeah.
so because green eggs and ham take a hike, okay. And then there's a Grinch sequel by someone I never heard of,
Don't
Katie
don't you
Vandor.
yeah, don't you feel like you should have got a Kachaka cover? Like I like Art Baltazar. Like I actually like him. Good artist,
Yeah,
funny
I
guy.
mean,
He shows
I
up on
think
Word Balloon a
that's
lot.
yeah, but I think that's all. I don't think that's all. I think it's all just snippets from the book. I want to say
Is
that the one on the right could be a Kolchaka. I think it's a coincidence that they have that the drawing here, that this. I think it's a coincidence that I don't think that's on purpose because that doesn't match that.
that
That's
doesn't
but
match up.
Balthazar clearly. This could be Kolchaka by itself, and that doesn't look like Balthazar. So I feel like these are just literally just
Yeah,
snippets from those books. Okay. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure how well that's going to do for anyone. And then the Minecraft book, I don't know. I don't know. So
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Minecraft. Listen, kids still play it.
yeah,
I don't know
maybe.
how that. Like the movie's coming out, nobody cares. My kids are like, yeah,
Yeah. See, this doesn't match to me. That even it's like an accident. You know, I think
it's a
that's
tangent.
yeah. Ah,
All right.
there we go. Image Comics, baby. Look, this is how you do a press release, everybody. Okay, look at Image Comics because guess what? There was a link to it. There was a bad blurb somewhere, bleeding cool, and then I went to the link. Image Comics, great press release, high res. Come on now, and then you can click on there. Good
Yeah.
job, Image. The Image Comics websites are like nice and clean. Look how clear this is. Beautiful.
No,
You know,
it
you got the
proper
links
links
up there.
to the creators, the books.
Facebook, Twitter,
These
Instagram,
links probably go to like
Tumblr, baby.
these links probably go to
LinkedIn.
Amazon. Yeah.
What's that? YouTube,
YouTube.
and then the I don't even know what that one is. Next,
My only problem is I still wish you could download comics directly from Image website.
yeah,
But
boom.
however, everything else perfect. Yeah.
But in this press, I'm not sure if I knew this. In this press release, they say the first season of the TV show will cover the first two story arcs: Criminal, Coward, and Lawless. The only thing I hope happens, just because they're very and it'll probably be this way, is that you have them just overlap each other. I don't want 4 episodes and 3 episodes or whatever it's going to be. 10, I don't
You
know,
think they're gonna
five and
just
five.
mix them together
That would be
more
fine.
fluidly? All right.
Well, hopefully, please. Like I know how to do this universe in my brain.
Yeah.
So
We spent a lot of time in that universe.
I
You more than me. I've read everything, but I think you've gone back and reread stuff, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is good.
Yeah, so these are all again all brand new covers. Really wonderful. This is my favorite one. This one I think is really that's the best one. Really nice and bold and clean.
Mhm.
Again, Sean Phillips does his own does all everything up and down. He does all the book design himself. So again, get him some money, give him some credit, whatever. You know what I mean? He's not paying anybody. And this is okay. So this year we talked about this. This is the first time that this is labeled as such. So I
Right.
feel like this is actually it's not just the story in there. They're actually pumping in. This is the first time I believe it's been printed in this way. So My Hero Has Always Been Donkeys, which came out originally as as a hardcover original graphic novel, but it later was
Was that the
mentioned that it is
first?
a criminal tale.
Was that the first original small hardcover he did?
Yes, and then he did Bad Weekend,
A
which was
collection of
pieces of a reconfiguration of 2 issues and then they may have
the criminal
done
ongoing
1 or 2 pages extra.
with extra pages, right?
Yeah.
And then
Um,
so they were so popular doing those smaller hardcover stories. That's when he went and did Pulp.
he did Pulp, and then they decided to do Reckless. Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And but Pulp, I think Pulp came out.
It did better than they thought it was going to do.
Yeah, Pulp created Reckless basically because yeah, they did Pulp, it was right as the pandemic was happening, and he was thinking about Reckless or whatever, and they were like,
And the
well,
criminal
hmm,
ongoing series sales weren't there.
hmm, right.
Like
So they were trying to
people
figure
like
out the next step.
Yeah,
of
and Pulp.
publishing and making money. And then it was pencils down. And then he's like, oh shit, I have nothing. You know what I mean? And then Pulp made a ton of money. It hit in this
Well, he
certain space.
he had the online book that all of a sudden went good, right? What was his online book? Or it was him. He had a
Friday,
Friday
which was an Encyclopedia Brown takeoff through Panel Syndicate with
panels. Yeah.
Marcos Martin.
Yep.
Hmm.
And that book also took off during the pandemic time. So
Right.
good for him. Good for him that he just was slightly ahead of a curve that he didn't know was coming.
Well, his point of the Reckless books, he said a few different times. He's like, I would love these to be in a airport, because what he when he would go to
Hudson, he
airports,
wanted in Hudson Books.
yeah, he wants it in Hudson Books, like when you go to travel and you grab a like a book, like kind of a like a disposable kind of book in a way. Not that these are disposable per se, but a book that you can read one and done on its own and can connect. Again, the last one, I think it was the last one or the second to last one, whatever which one where he was like not the main character is like my favorite one, as much as I like the Reckless character. Oh, and we can even talk about news here because Reckless this week was mentioned by Sebastian Stan in an interview.
Yeah,
Something that he's developing that with some other director who's done some indie work. And I was like, what? Like I didn't hear about that at all. So I'm not sure if that was signed or Sebastian Stan's production company. Sebastian Stan has done two very well received movies this year, him playing a young Donald Trump in The Apprentice, and I forget it's a perfect I forget what it's called, something man, a perfect man, something like that, but
yeah.
where he has it's actually kind of reversed. So I feel like he has like almost Elephant Man type of face, right? And then he gets it off, and then he has trouble with being good looking later. So it seems pretty interesting. It's
That
very,
is
very
that is
artsy,
interesting. And he
very
did such a good
artsy.
job on the Tommy Lee Pamela series.
Hmm.
Like I like he's a better Tommy Lee than like Tommy Lee. Like I prefer looking at him as Tommy Lee than looking at Tommy Lee.
Right. I
But
never watched that actually.
he's versatile. No, he's so good, dude. I like him a lot. Like, he's our Bucky. He's our Bucky forever, you know.
Yeah. Oh my God. You know what? It must have been because I was watching interviews with him. But did you watch the whatever Apple movie that was that he did
No.
Ghost, or did
No,
you
I
watch
wanted to.
Ghosted? Do you know what I'm talking
No.
about?
Yeah, I know what you're
So
talking about.
I didn't watch Ghosted. Okay. I think it looked really bad from the trailer, and I think Chris Evans he just needs to fire his agent, man, because like
Oh, wait a
Red
minute.
One,
I did watch that. That's how forgettable it is, Mark. Because it
yeah,
ends with a horrible action scene like on a revolving restaurant. Oh yeah,
yes, and
boring.
then, but see, here's the thing, is that someone posted all the clips of the people that are in it. There's a bunch of cameos in it.
So many cameos, dude. Yeah, they're all
It's
in it.
so bad though. Every cameo is bad. So you have Anthony Mackie. So they're like so basically Anna de Armas, who is ballerina, right? She's ballerina in John Wick. Basically, they
Right
have a
into
John
John
Wick
Wick verse.
spinoff this month, 2 months out. It's pretty close. It's coming out. Um, which I guess he's in it. I'm not sure if he's in the trailer, but there's a rumor that basically John Wick shows up in it. Anyway, so they're doing a John Wick spinoff of Anna de Armas' character from the last John Wick movie. Anyway, so it's an Anna de Armas movie where she's a spy and she dates Chris Evans or something, and they break up, and then
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, right? So, and then he's embroiled with her, and they're traveling from country to country, and they're in like the Middle East, and it looks like a set. Is clearly during COVID, so it's so set.
Yeah.
And then they get in a car, and then Anthony Mackie's in the back, and then Anthony Mackie gets shot by Bucky, and then Bucky's in the car,
Uh-huh.
and like so it's Sebastian Stan, so it's Anthony Mackie, then Sebastian Stan, and then who was next? Oh, John Cho, he gets shot. Or maybe John Cho was first, and I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. I
okay,
forget.
like, and then I think Anthony Mackie comes back and hits Bucky with a car, and then they get in the car and then they leave, and then like later on I think at the end I guess is when they're in that revolving thing because it looked so green screeny. I didn't see it, but they're in the revolving restaurant or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then Ryan Reynolds shows up with one eye and then makes a joke that his penis got shot off, and it's like, so it's just bad upon bad upon bad upon bad, and I'm like, oh my
It's
God,
ideas that
I
seem
can't
funny
believe it.
when a bunch of friends are standing around.
Right.
Everything's funnier when you're standing around with your friends, where everyone's pitching ideas, and you're like, and you don't want to say no to Ryan Reynolds. He's Ryan
I'll say
Reynolds.
no to him. Seems I have theories. Yeah.
I know. My one buddy is like, oh, at least we're gonna get Deadpool 4, 5, and 6 now.
We'll see. Not if Disney has to pay out a lot of money. So let's just just quickly upon that. Okay, so the news this week, basically, and I feel like they're all sociopaths. Okay, in my opinion.
It comes along with the power, Mark. Power and money make you think you're better than you actually are. Some people can control it, some people
Yeah,
can't. It's hard to be the boss
yeah.
because you're just, I guess you get a feeling of entitlement. I don't know.
But see, I think no one's there. So our theories of like the Ryan Reynolds being a nice guy is a little bit iffy because we've seen just different interviews with Weasel didn't come back, so there was a somewhat
But
cancellation of
yeah, somewhat of a
T.J.
cancellation
Miller,
on him.
right?
He never called Josh Brolin back after Deadpool 2. Josh Brolin's like, yeah, Cable should be in this Deadpool Wolverine movie. Like,
Hmm.
whether it's a cameo or something small or something at the end. Like, and I'm like, yeah, Cable should have been in that.
Yeah, but I don't know if it ever worked. I'm not sure if they really got like I don't hear stories. I hear Josh Brolin gets along and writes poetry to people and like checks in with people all the
He's a
time. So
he's a super nice guy.
it seems
Yeah,
kind of
he's
interesting as a
like
person
he's
to not be friends with.
take a shot. He's still friendly
Yeah,
with Liefeld. He emails Liefeld and texts him and stuff. Like
yeah,
Liefeld's a nobody.
yeah.
He's big to us
Relative.
in
Yeah.
comics, but in Hollywood, like Josh Brolin. How many people has Josh Brolin works with incredible actors,
Mhm.
directors? You know what I mean?
Right.
He,
Besides,
he's he's Hollywood
is being called
royalty.
back by Denis Villeneuve to do multiple films with him, right? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's not a person that, and like he might be the only carryover, right? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he's the only carryover technically from moving along, So who's been
Mhm.
in multiple Coen Brothers movies, who decided to change his accent and in between. He didn't get the part. I think there's a story where he wanted to be in True Grit and he didn't get it. Like he was being literally called by who just used him in No Country for Old Men, the Coens, and they're just like, so he's like, I got the job, right? I got the job, and then he goes in and something's not clicking, and then he comes up with this weird accent from someone that he heard in like a store in Texas. He's like, he did this weird accent for when he's in True Grit, and that's in it. That's it. That did it. You know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
choices. So clearly thinking about the craft quite a bit. And Dune, he thinks about the craft quite a bit on set, writing a bunch of people. So yeah, so for him not to be in that, but there's a story where T.J. Miller talks about they're doing a lot of improv and they're doing a riffing scene. They keep doing these riffing scenes, and then um, he's ends up being really mean to Weasel in this one scene, but it came off really weird and personal. So TJ
To
Miller couldn't
T.J.
shake it
Miller.
off.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it was some insult to him, and he didn't repeat it, and he's shaking it off, and he's walking away, and the guy on the a crew member is like, looking at him, he's like, "Hey, that was weird." He's like, "Okay, it was weird, right? Like that was weird, right? Like you needed like a witness, like because you probably feel out of body. You're like, am I being like really like poured upon?" So the reason we're mentioning is that when we saw, so you, I, Chris, Brian, Walt, we did our Deadpool Wolverine day. We took off from work. Like we
Yeah.
like went, it was an event. We
It
stayed at my
was.
house for 12 hours. Like we were forever that day.
Yeah.
That day
We.
was forever. It was great. So we watched it twice. We watched it, then I had a bootleg of it, and we watched it again. You know what I mean? Like we
Right.
just
Right.
watched it
We
again.
came home. We're like, you got a bootleg of that? Yeah.
I said, let me go
So
check. And I found it. Then I was like a really good copy too. So but the whole thing, everything kind of tracks in that movie, except listen, you have Deadpool 2099 in that movie, right?
yeah.
Then you have this character who I didn't really think of it at the time. It's almost like goofing upon like a different Ryan Reynolds sort of, because he does a thing across camera where he mentions the proposal. So it's like is he making fun of the way he was before he became Deadpool? Not too sure, but he has a
Not
man
sure. But
bun,
he's
you know.
perfect looking. Like Deadpool's like a mess and nice pool as he's been
I think
known.
they CGI'd his face. They made it more symmetrical. Something's weird with it. He looks uncanny. It's an uncanny valley thing. I
Right.
think
Right.
maybe
Right.
maybe not. I'm not sure. Because again, we don't see Deadpool's face all the time. We don't see Ryan Reynolds' face all the time. So maybe it's a situation where like, well, was it Spider-Man 2? They just keep ripping his mask off. They're like, well, Tobey Maguire, we got him. We want to make him act. Keep ripping his mask off, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, keep cutting the mask in half, whatever. I don't know. So I feel like it's maybe it's that. Maybe it's a vain situation. They just want to have it. Listen, Wolverine doesn't have his mask on through 90%, 100% of all the films, and
Yeah.
then this has his mask on for 10% of the movie, maybe 20%. But it was a thing like, well, you have Hugh Jackman's face. Like, what are you gonna do? You want to
You
cover
see,
that?
somebody went and made a fan edit of they put Wolverine's mask on during the
Oh, the
the
whole
fight
thing.
in the void and
Oh,
stuff, like the first like saber tooth
yeah,
and
yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff.
I did see that. It was good too. It's really good.
It
I
does
mean,
look good.
listen, yeah.
All right.
So I just feel it like because he should have had throw the mask on the first time he fought him. Like would have been easier. But
Yeah, but
anyway, so
you don't get the special build.
Right. So during the press of the what it ends with us, the domestic violence movie, is that there was some bad press because it came out right after Deadpool Wolverine. So Blake Lively has a movie coming out. It's literally about domestic violence based on this book about domestic violence. But then she has weird things that she says in interviews like grab your florals, grab your girlfriends, go see this movie. It looks like a love story. The marketing seemed like a love story,
Right.
and it's not. She gets domestic abuse by one, not one, but two people. All the press for that, they're never together. So Blake Lively's never together with the guy who co-wrote, adapted, and directed it and starred. The main the doesn't that's domestic abuse, I believe, number one. I think she has a second one later on. So when she's doing the press with one of the actresses or one of the writers, or maybe the writer of the book, Blake Lively, and then like the other guy too. Not with Justin Baldoni, but apparently like during the set, there's been different interviews where she said, "Oh, the scene on the rooftop, Ryan Reynolds wrote that." And so the stuff that came out this week mainly was that a couple weeks ago, Blake Lively files a lawsuit where she's suing Justin Baldoni for like media manipulation that then claims that he hired a firm to uh, to put out through social media that she was bad and then resurface all these bad interviews and stuff. Well, she's in these interviews and she doesn't come off that great. She comes off like a mean girl, right? Not unlike her character on Gossip Girl, basically. Um, but the other thing too, so when she puts this lawsuit out, and this is what I told you about, everyone has digital receipts of stuff.
Right.
Okay. And I had this even with like my divorce, like my divorce too, where different things are taken out of context because you're deleting bits of text
Right.
messages. So I
Right.
send the text message literally to my lawyer saying that's not what that was. Here it is. Here's the original, right? Now, who knows? And I know there are ways, and this happened even with the Amber Heard trial, is there were things that she manipulated that they edited to make her look worse, and then they go back and say, okay, we digitally took this photo. This photo was taken on this day because again, if you go on your phone, you can see
Right.
when it's taken. You
All
can
your
see all
metadata
sorts of
there.
stuff. Right. But then you can also see if it was put through filters, you can put through this or that or that. So you can see all the stuff. So when she posts all this stuff, it's very difficult to insert text messages inside of existing text messages. It's impossible, really. It's easy to delete them.
Yeah.
So he puts out a counter lawsuit. She puts out all this lawsuit there. He puts out a counter lawsuit saying, like, no, none of that's true. I didn't hire a firm to make you look bad. You made yourself look bad. But there must have been some type of friction during set because again, they did not do press together, unlike, Wicked is the press, and
Hmm.
that won like an award this year, like the best press ever, the most pushed press ever. They did a very good job.
Which is crazy because I thought
Um,
that would have went to like Wolverine, Deadpool, because that
no,
that press tour was
correct. But
equally as incredible.
right, but for whatever, I think it had more to do with like them being weird and marketable, like a memeable rather, like just like boom, there's memes and gifs, um,
Gifts. They're gifts.
gifs. That's fine,
Because
but like
because it's short for
regardless,
graphic because it's short for graphic images,
oh
So
right,
it's not,
I guess that's right. Again, I'm old. Um, so there's anyway, they're all sociopaths, but here's the weird thing: is that Nice Pool's credited by what? It in the credits it actually has something Reynolds. It's like John Reynolds or something like that, or Brian Reynolds. It's not Ryan Reynolds, okay? But in the acknowledgments for which she's an executive producer of It Ends With Us, she thanks him, the fake Ryan Reynolds or whatever.
right.
So the rumors this week was that Nice Pool was literally based on the Justin Baldoni who was courting Blake Lively to be in this movie, who was more nice. Like again, the caricature of Nice Pool is this. So if this eventually gets kind of and I've seen clips where they pulled all interviews with Justin Baldoni in this man bun and being really, I don't know, sweet, I guess. I don't know, like not like, but it it's sweet and phony is what it's supposed to come off like, right? It just seems like a hippie. I don't know.
Right.
Like it doesn't seem odd to me because I'm a hippie. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
whatever. So I just don't, but I feel like both of them, it's just a bunch of sociopaths being mad at each other, and we have to watch it, you know.
It's because it's interesting because they're rich and famous and listen, we see enough of that in our real world. It's weird that it becomes news. It's weird that we become interest. We have an interest because we need Ryan Reynolds to be good so we get more Deadpool movies.
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
So we need that. We don't like to see like I don't like to see that Neil Gaiman's going to shit because I really enjoyed the first Sandman season. You
Right.
know, Sandman season 2 comes out this year. It's going to get, what are they going to do? You can't really promote it. You know, it
They've
can't be
already
like,
had a reel come out talking about it, but he was absent from that reel before this stuff came out. So they must have knew something was up.
it's a shame
Something was
because
coming.
we're not going to get Sandman season 3.
No, no
Season
way.
2 was a struggle
Hmm.
to get it to happen because they do such a good job with season 1. And me personally, how this affects me personally is I don't know what's going to happen with the next Miracle Man series. I'm a huge Miracle Man fan,
Oh,
and I had
crap.
a
Yep.
really good
We've already had
conversation.
enough time delayed for Miracle Man, the Silver Age.
I
Delayed
think
20 years.
I think when I was talking to Mark Buckingham at Baltimore, who is a super nice guy. I love
Hmm.
Mark Buckingham, super
Yeah,
nice
he's
guy.
great.
He kind of let out that he's basically writing it now. Like the last the Golden Age, Mark Buckingham let the Golden Age come out. That's the same book that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. The Silver Age, the first 2 issues came out in the early 90s. Issue 3 was completed but never published because Eclipse Publishing went under. So when Marvel goes to do the Silver Age, they don't just do a reprint recoloring. Mark Buckingham decides to completely redraw it. He
Hmm.
redraws the Silver Age. Issue 3 comes out, it's good. Issue 4, you're like, feels a little different. Well, I think from 4 on, it's like Neil Gaiman plotting it, and
Yeah.
then it turns into and then I think it ends up being like a conversation between Neil Gaiman and Buckingham. Like, oh, what's going to happen this issue? Okay, and then Buckingham just does it.
Right, right, right.
So I feel like the next series, I think it's just going to be like more. I think it's going to be Neil Gaiman's idea, and then Buckingham just doing it. I think that's what we're going to get. And you know what? That's fine. It's fine because Buckingham's a talent.
Yeah, but I'm just curious if like did that sell enough
I don't
the
know,
last time out? You know what I
but
mean? It
it's
it
getting
lost
collected
so
enough.
much.
It
Yeah,
lost
right.
all
But
momentum, and
yeah,
all the
it's all
ideas
momentum.
of Miracle Man have been taken since. You know, remember
Hmm.
Ian? Ian loved the Sentry. Number one, he's like the Sentry. Paul Jenkins, Jay Lee. He's like, this is the best comic ever, and we're like, it's just Miracle Man.
Right,
You
right, right,
know,
right,
in the Marvel universe. You
right.
know, were you there? I don't know when Sentry came out.
Hmm.
Could have been after your departure, but like, no, Ian, go read Miracle Man.
Right. But you can't because no one can print it,
Did
and
you
they finally
at
got
that
it
point?
all
Yeah.
worked out.
Did you
Yeah.
know Sentry was a Paul Jenkins pitch at I think at Tundra, but it was like he was
No.
doing it Rick Veitch. So like the Sentry was kind of co-created by Rick Veitch. Rick Veitch has all these other Sentry designs. They were basically doing
Hmm.
like a Sentry in the 60s, Sentry in the 50s, Sentry in the 70s. Like he had all these weird costume designs. Like it was going to be more like a different take on the character. It was kind of interesting. Would have been a completely different book. So I don't know if Rick Veitch got ripped off. Jenkins just went and did it by himself. I don't know.
Yeah,
Was
Jenkins
there,
is it's interesting for sure. You know, we've heard some interviews with him. He's had some ups and downs with things, you know. So,
yeah, we still like him though. I think he's thumbs
mhm.
up. Our buddy
Yeah.
Zach. Let's quote Zach. You know what we did? Me and Zach were down at MegaCon, probably 2001 in Florida. We go down. We stay at my aunt's house. Good time. So we're at MegaCon. So we go to this party afterwards. Everyone's there. Joe Quesada, Amanda Connor, uh, Peter David. Like just everyone who was at MegaCon was at this party, this after party, and they're doing karaoke. And Zach goes up and just fills in, I think, a Clash song. Him and Paul. He's like, and Paul Jenkins. So Zach and Paul Jenkins do the song together. It's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
And Jenkins like loves Zach. He's like, oh, how'd you know I was in a punk band? Zach's like, I didn't. He goes, oh yeah, he was in a punk band like at one point. And
Oh
he's
my
like,
God.
contact me and I'll send you the CD. I still have his email address, but
Well, did Zach ever
just
get that
funny.
CD? I guess he'll tell us in the comments.
He'll comment below, Zach.
He'll comment below if he got
Also,
that CD.
what song was it? I mean, it's probably like the obvious. So
Maybe not. I don't know.
I know Amanda
Uh,
Connor did the girl from Ipanema.
oh really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
fun. That's
it was a
fun.
fun time.
So in worst news, uh,
Yeah, here's where the show goes more downhill.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
The
is a
wor
depressing show. Neil
I
Gaiman, like
know,
now you know what I mean,
I
like
know.
Bill Cosby.
Lawsuits. Bill Cosby,
What else are we going to get into? Epstein. Let's bring in Epstein Island
Epstein
next.
Island. So yeah, so I mean, listen, I have a little bit of personal experience with this because I did work. I did, leave the store in 2000 and the comic book store I worked for from like 1994 to 2000, so 6 years of my life.
Legends.
We're friends because of it. We met in
Yeah.
'94. So this week based, and it was rumored weeks ago, and they're shutting down. They shut down Plattsburgh, which was forever. They've been
The
cutting
major
back on different
diamond
things.
warehouse. Yeah, we gotta start saying what it is first and then going
Yeah, yeah,
into it. I know you like to do a nice dramatic build up to what we're going to talk about,
right,
but I
right, right.
think for people who are just going to listen, because that's going to happen,
Boo. Um,
Diamond went in for bankruptcy.
Diamond Comic Distributors. Yeah, and the biggest. I guess because everything's kind of privatized, we don't know if they're the biggest, distributor basically. When we looked at market share a couple weeks ago, and it was Marvel was like 33%, DC was like 25, 24, 25%.
Right.
But years ago they lost. So when Disney, because is that right? When Disney bought Marvel, they eventually looked at their mainframe and they said, "Hey, why are you still being distributed through Diamond?" Is that right? Does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sound
Because
right?
Disney has deals with other book publishers
Right.
because, Diamond has been a pseudo monopoly for 30 years.
Hmm.
So the pandemic opened up when Diamond stopped shipping during the beginning of the pandemic. That opened up a contractual obligation, you know, dispute. So that's when DC started looking at Lunar and whatever the other company was that they used for like 6 months or a year. Lunar
Right.
obviously went one out.
Right. Right. Right.
So due to everyone leaving Diamond little by little, they did bankruptcy, which is odd because they're still a profitable company. So I don't know where the money goes because they're still getting Diamond's still getting paid. These comic stores are still paying Diamond.
Hmm.
What are they doing with all that money?
They're not paying these people, I guess.
They owe Penguin $9 million. That's like, did they ever pay them?
But I don't understand what that means. Does that mean Marvel? Like, does Penguin Man House mean
No,
Marvel
it means
or
because Penguin Random House is the wholesaler to Diamond. You know what I mean? Like Marvel ships to Penguin, Diamond, the printer ships to Penguin, and then Penguin ships to Diamond. That's why it costs more to get Marvel books through Diamond.
you can still get? I thought you couldn't get Marvel books for Diamond. I thought it always had to go through Penguin House, Penguin Random House.
No, not at first anyway, because
Yeah,
people still like people didn't want to use another distributor, and
well,
Marvel realized that.
yeah. There used to be order minimums, and we also know in South Jersey that some stores would have to team with other stores because they couldn't afford the minimums.
Yes,
So there was almost like a mini
yeah.
distribution by some retailers in South Jersey
Diamond
because
had
they couldn't
too
do it.
much power. They made mandatory minimums. If you were trying to self-publish a comic, they would take a bigger cut, which is horrible because you're a small publisher. Diamond would make more money off of a self-published comic than the people making the comic. That's just the rules of distribution, sadly. But I had friends that like they'd get a couple issues published and the sales would dip because they're just nobodies, you
Mhm.
know. And then Diamond's like, oh, you didn't make enough for this issue, so we can't
We're not going
distribute
to
it for
pay
you.
it, and we're also not going to. You can have no more issues come out.
Right. So
Right.
you'd like, well, can't you
Worse.
finish the 6 issues? Then I can do a trade,
No.
you know?
Right.
So I think as a distributor, I don't care if you sell 5 comics, you should just still distribute it. Like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, but there's more so the stuff that I'm seeing now on different, shows we listen to, and it's more negative. What did I call it early in the week? Not rage dollars.
Rage, yeah,
We want
joy
to have joy
dollars.
dollars, right?
We
Where
we want
we
hope
want clicks
dollars.
because we're positive about the industry. The problem is right now, this is kind of a mess, So when we're looking at this, and we know a few people that are on here you work for UPS,
Yeah,
why do they owe
they
UPS? Like what? But we
they
also
owe
know
they owe UPS almost $500,000.
from our own world is that we know of a comic store that went out who at certain so if you don't pay, so the best terms you can have on a distributor is net 30, right? Net 30, net 60. So you're paying them after you get the stuff. You get the stuff, you sell it. Hopefully you're in a spot where you get enough profit, you're paying it, you get your next stuff, right? So you're
Mhm.
net 30. Then when things get a little tighter, they might put you on like net 14, net two
Hey,
weeks. So you got to
hey,
pay in two
TMP, is
weeks.
that Todd McFarlane Productions,
Mhm.
number 5?
Yep. Um,
I didn't even look at that.
and then like I don't know what National Entertainment Collectibles are. That's a pretty big chunk. I don't know. That sounds weird. I'm not sure.
National Entertainment.
I
Could
don't
be a
know.
decent. I don't know.
NEC. Um, but then when it comes bad, then have to become like a net seven, then a net seven C. What's it called? What's when you have to pay for it? COD, cash on
COJ.
delivery,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
and
you're
that's
you're COD. But then there was a loophole because you knew of something where there was a bunch of boxes at UPS because
yeah. Let's say
I would say you created the South Jersey concept, right? Of like, hey, hold it. I don't know if that's true, but like in a way,
Yes.
we would get we
When
would get deliveries of new books on Wednesday whenever the guy would get to us, which is 2 or 3 p.m. Well,
right, the UPS driver, we have a schedule and we kind of stick to it. And the guy in the mall would get to your store 2 to 3 p.m.
mhm.
So we came, but UPS has an option where you don't have to get your stuff delivered. We can hold it for you at our customer
Hold
counter.
at the hub. Yeah,
Hold it at the hub. Well, since I work there in the mornings, I said, Mark, why don't you get it delivered to the hub and I'll just pick it up?
mhm.
And you're like, that would be incredible. And I would
And
get
then
there,
you're a certified employee,
yeah, and
so
then
you
I
get
get,
employee discount.
yep, my discount got upped. So, but then all the other comic stores did it too. Like, and it wasn't like a competition. It's like, hey, here's a good idea, guys. Let's all do it.
Mhm. Right, right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
but I got done, we go get the books, and I'd be at the mall by 9:30, so we could get the
sure.
books out before the mall even opened,
Right,
if we had a good flow going. So, but here's the secret was, so you had a good account, good standing with Diamond, not a problem. They'd bill you, your bosses would pay them. If you failed to pay them or continue to pay them late, they would turn you to COD, cash or check on demand. So like you wouldn't get your books unless you paid the UPS driver. We'd have to take a check from you. But the secret is, if you got a shipment of 9 boxes, only one box would have the COD on it. So you could take the 8 boxes and not pay the COD, like, oh, hold on to it for a couple of days, or come back, or we would hold it. And certain people kept doing that too often. And then next thing you know, we got a pile of COD boxes. And Diamond's like, they're not paying for any of this. You're just cut.
mhm.
And then they stop getting new books.
I've
Uh,
been personally in 3 stores in the last 6, 7 months, and people come in and they'll say, "Hey, you have X," and they say, "Oh no, that didn't ship this week," and they're straight up lying,
shit
or
line.
"Oh yeah, there was a problem with this and that." They're just lying, like they're just lying through their teeth. And again, it's their business or whatever. I'm there to give them money, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I can't be like, "Hey, that actually came out. Go to a different store." You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, but but people, but again, it's the inner world, the interwebs. You can just go online and buy whatever, which also is
Hmm.
taking a cut out of the source.
Yeah.
But you're also not creating an environment where you got to get to the store, the urgency of that, of like of the heat of the thing, the entertainment dollar of getting there and getting your books. So the casual fan is kind of gone because of the availability. Just as that, just again, look, I work for Diamond. Maybe I shouldn't work. God, I won't even say where I work now. Maybe they'll go out of business. But I work for Toys R Us isn't here anymore. I work for Diamond. I work for Alliance, which is their sister company that got bought out by this Canadian company. They bought Alliance, which Alliance game distributor where I worked at. I worked for Diamond for 2 years, I think, year and a half. And then I went to the sister company because I knew the person running that. I used to work for him at who owned the comic book store. But remember, Alliance was there because it was Chessex and the Armory. Those were two gaming distributors that both of them were doing okay. But they realized, and Dan knew someone at Chessex, and he says, well, if I merge with them, then we'll be Alliance game. And it was like, we'll merge all the accounts and we're all got the same stuff. They basically were going after Chessex because they made dice.
Uh,
They distributed, but they also made dice. So the production of dice was more important. So Chessex still was there creating dice. So that was more important, but they wanted the distribution money of the accounts. We want the accounts. So they're very successful. But I remember going from Diamond. I told you this when this happened. Going from Diamond, a big building, big beautiful building, Timonium. It was all glass. It was a mirrored glass. So you go to this big beautiful building. Jeppy had a floor to
and that's
himself,
and
which
that's in
half of it
Baltimore. Is that in Baltimore? Outside
it's in
Baltimore?
Timonium, which is outside of Baltimore by
Okay.
about 15 minutes.
Okay.
We actually passed the Timonium exit. You could actually see the building when we're driving down 95 to go to Baltimore Comic Con. So there's the old building. There it is. And they moved out of there since, but customer service for the most part, where I was in, we were in the basement. So we were literally going in this building. It's beautiful. We go in the basement. A third of the customer service agents was from an expansion because we would go in these meetings and there'd be a bunch of people there and half of them didn't, like I would say a third or more didn't know anything about comic books. Is because when they had to expand, they just hired temps and they never fired them. They never fired anybody. So it was a bunch of temps. But I would have like 20 or 30 accounts I would work with, and like it was just odd. Like and it just we were just customer service, and you have the same accounts and you call, here's my damages, and one guy is new, like this is all stuff. I guess you're just, and if it was over so many copies, we wouldn't. it wouldn't red flag. So a couple people knew they would call and be like, "Oh, I got three was damaged, two were damaged," and if it wasn't high enough, they didn't have to return the diamond. They wouldn't have to return, or they would do a strip cover return. But if
Yeah.
it wasn't enough, they wouldn't have to return them. So we just go, "Okay, well, please destroy them." All right, we'll throw them in the dollar bin. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, or something, whatever.
Please don't
Just
destroy. They never go in a dollar bin. They
they're
there
never going to
there
dollar bins.
the store, there was in particular store I was talking about.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna name it. It was Stormwatch. Stormwatch was the guy, because
Yeah.
he's not around anymore. He doesn't whatever. Oh, I got stories about this guy.
Right.
There's so many stories I'm afraid to tell on this podcast. We talk so much and have so many stories,
Well,
but
we're
then
just
there's ones
talking
I'm
in
afraid.
general. I was talking in
But
general,
but
so
Stormwatch was one of the ones that really like was doing
abusive.
that with the CODs.
Hmm.
But I was in there one time and they were counting up stores, they were counting up their comics Wednesday night. Um, and they were like, oh, like, oh, we got it. They were almost making up claims about like, oh, this one's damaged, wink. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. It was like very. So I
Hmm.
was going there,
Sure.
I think, when House of M was coming out, and I really liked the House of M variants. They were really good. I was trying to get all of them, and like they're like, oh, we don't have any. I'm like, what about that one? Like, oh, that's damaged, wink. I'm like, okay, awkward. You know, I still got it. I ended up getting it from them, and it like
Hmm.
wasn't damaged, but they were
Right.
calling it damaged anyway. So it's like the days when the newsstands would call in their damages or their non-sells. Oh, we
Right.
only sold three of Amazing Spider-Man. All right, send us in. They would either send in the covers, and
Hmm.
then it was like send in the top, just the title. But it got to a point where they didn't want anything back.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that's when like the comic industry got real seedy because then they were just lying about the books. We only sold one, okay, and then they'd sell all 10 and keep all the money, or
Right. There's
or they were like,
restaurants.
or they were selling them to like the early comics stores.
Hmm.
Before they were stores, they were just selling them like, here, you take half of this run. I'll claim I didn't sell them.
Right. Right.
That's why Neil Adams' Dead Man wasn't a hit for DC because they were like claiming they weren't selling, but meanwhile they were selling them to collectors.
Mm.
But for some reason, if Neil Adams did a cover for a book, it would sell. The collectors weren't as in on that. So it's a weird thing that like Dead Man should have been a hit, but it wasn't because so many were going to collectors instead of
You talking about the Dead
being
Man reprints, the
no,
Baxters?
the original Dead Man series.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It didn't sell well for that
Hmm.
reason because the newsstands were claiming that they weren't selling. That
That's
was the
crazy.
era in which you didn't have to send back the comics, the cover,
Right.
or the title.
Well, we would buy a lot of stuff at a flea market with Berlin Mart near us, and then it would
Mm-hmm.
be either half cover. We buy Mad magazines, or it would be like, or the back cover, part of the back cover was. There would always be things that would be off on it, but we would get them for there'd be a wax
Yeah,
crayon on the cover or
wax,
something like
wax.
that.
Yeah, the wax crayon was. Yeah, they would get them in pretty good condition actually. After a while, they must stop it having to send them back.
Right. Yeah, but a lot of my comics I had when I was younger, wax with the wax marker, or have
Wax
or
marker.
a quarter cover, like the top half cover is off. So they're still around. You still see them at different shows and stuff. But I mean, looking at this, so working at Diamond, it always felt. But when I moved over, I was there for a year and a half. When I moved over to, um, and I worked there with, like, again, I tried to get into purchasing. At one point, I interviewed, actually the same time I interviewed for this like purchasing department. There should have had two people, and they ended up just pulling one of us up, and it
Mm.
was Philip Sablick who was working. I think, is he working with Dumbier? Is that right? But Philip
Yeah,
Sablick worked with me there, or I work with him rather, whatever. Either way, but super, like, exactly, the interviews I hear, I'm like, yep, that's him, and it was really cool. But he got out of the basement. We were like, oh my god, he's getting out of the basement. We can get out of the basement. But then there would be these different events, and then we would literally go to Jeppy's floor, and that was kind of
wow.
a crazy thing too, because again, his floor basically was the Jeppy Museum, which eventually became like the Jeppy Museum of Art, which he opened up like near Camden Yards, and then that
Yeah,
closed. That ended up closing. There's a video. I want to say there's was it a comic book man they went there? I want to say. I think they did. They went to. I think the comic book man went to that museum on a private tour and stuff there, so you can actually see that and see Jeppy talk about stuff. And Jeppy was he's a showman, man. Listen, he owned a part of the Orioles. Actually, the craziest thing was, was it Jeppy's son, Josh Jeppy, who ran like Diamond International or something, whatever, right? Just a
Right,
fake
right,
position, right? It was Jeppy's
right.
kid. But I worked with this great kid. His name was Chris. He was in the basement with us. He was a customer service, a goofball, right? We could get in his car. He loved his stereo was and Nelly was out. So we listened to the fucking Nelly, get in his car and listen to Nelly, right? So we're driving, going to Mama Lardo's, which is a pizza place. I remember all this stuff like really clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
And he loved the Baltimore Orioles. And Jeppy owned a part of the Baltimore Orioles. And this is a sad story. But so the tough part is that Chris's high school girlfriend also worked there, but she was a secretary on one of the floors you can see outside. So that was really nice. So she was on the third floor, I think. I
Right.
think
She
the
wasn't in the severance department.
right, it was exactly that's exactly right. That's exactly how it feels. Well, so I relate to that show. So one day Joe, my boss Joe Lunday, he says, I think he still works there. Josh, I should probably, I should check in with some of these people. Probably
Yeah.
still works there. Old man Joe, because he wasn't. He was like 20, but he had bald and he looked old. We call him Old Man Lunday. So Old Man Lunday, we'd be out and he says, so where's Chris? He's like, oh, Chris, he called out the last couple of days. I'm like, what's up? He's like, oh, well, he's really sad. And I said, why? He says, well, I don't remember. I'd say Chrissy. I don't know her name. Chrissy broke up and she's dating Josh. So what? Josh, she's dating Josh Jeppy. So what are you talking about? He says, and he can't watch baseball games. I said, what do you mean? And at Diamond, it was kind of neat. So Jeppy, Steve Jeppy owned a bit of the Orioles. So a lot of times we would just get notices and like, hey, you want 2 tickets to the Orioles game and free parking? Sure. So we would, just get once or twice a week. I would say every 2 3 weeks, me and uh, first wife, we would go to a Orioles game with some of my friends. It would be 4 or 5 of us, 6 of us.
Right.
So it was kind
Well,
of great because again, the third or the 1/3 that were temps, they don't care about the Orioles. I didn't really care about the Orioles. I just want to go to this nice stadium. So or yards rather, right? It's Camden Yards. So go down there. But here's the thing. So if it was a right-handed batter, you can see if you watch any Orioles game, at least, I don't know if it's still this way, where all the owners' boxes right there. So you'd see Steve Jeppy, you see Josh Jeppy, and now you get to see Chrissy. So this guy, Chris Myers, who loved the Orioles, can't watch a game because he's literally watching his old
ugh.
girlfriend with the owner's kid right there. And I want to say they got married. I want to say Josh married her too. It's like ridiculous. And then Chris worked there he might still be there. I don't know. Chris worked there when I left. Like it was
Wow.
brutal. But so that was
How do
one
you
horrible
compete?
story.
How do you compete with a millionaire? You know?
You can't. There's nothing you can do. And I forgot what Josh Carr was like super nice too. It was just ridiculous. It was all ridiculous. But I just even then it felt very like money. And we know another person who's a retailer. We know that person that worked at Diamond and
He's got
complains
incredible
about it. He's got
stories.
incredible
He's
early stories from me. He
he's
was
probably
yelling at
doing
me
a
that I
dance
went.
right now.
Yeah, he was yelling at me when I said, "What are you doing now? What are you doing? What are you doing?" That's I want to go down. I want to go.
He would
He's like,
he
"Oh,
would
no,
he would talk
you
about
know."
and mark this in case you got to cut it out. He's like, oh yeah, Jeffy would come down to the warehouse and bang the secretaries and stuff. And
Well, I'll leave it in. I don't know. Like again, we're 24 viewers. I'm okay.
yeah,
Um,
no, it's a story of our friend who owns a comic store who worked at Diamond. We
yeah,
love him.
yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah. So, but
pocket
but
T-shirt.
but I remember going to Alliance, and it was like 6 people. It was like 6 salespeople for like the U.S., and I was in charge of international, which was like 60 or 70 accounts. And I had to fill out forms, and it was a cool job. Like, I mean, again, we knew at certain points that I had this one, and it's probably still in there in New York City. I had a place called Image Anime for whatever reason, where we were in Lutherville, Maryland. If I got it to the UPS
Otisburg.
that day, however it worked, they would get their stuff the next day. If I got it on a truck at 3 p.m., they would have it the next day by noon. So they would call me, and I got paid partial bonuses of stuff, right? Which was different too, which also ruffled feathers because I was telling people I go out with friends. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to tell them, hey, I make bonus. What do you mean you make bonus? Oh, I went over there, I made bonus. So I pissed off. So then that got back to so and so called Dan, and Dan's like, you can't tell people what you make. I said, I don't know, man. You didn't tell me I couldn't tell him that. I'm having a great time over here. He's like, yeah, we know that. Shut the fuck up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I didn't know because I was like, yeah, man, I
Yeah,
make
yeah.
this, but I mean, I won't
That's
say,
a well, that's the problem
but
with the comics industry. That will on our
Yeah, but they
episode
were
that
just
we're
paying
working
these
on.
customer service agents like X. Like that's it. You're never going to make
Yeah.
more money. No overtime, no nothing. You make that. You want to go to the Orioles game? Here you go. Like that was it. There's no perks. No perks over there. You
Here's
might get some free
here's
stuff here
you
and
know
there.
what?
I got free
Going
comps
going to the
sometimes.
Orioles is like, hey, everyone's getting pizza. No need to unionize. Here's pizza.
Yeah, that's it was so crazy. So I went over there, made some good money, but it was so lean. This company, this Image Anime, Jerry would call me and is like, "Hey, I need Ghost in the Shell tomorrow." Okay, so I literally would go out in the warehouse and put it in a box and pack it up and give it to Dan, the warehouse manager, and he would slam it and it would be out. He'd have it in like 14 hours. It was ridiculous. So because we were in this weird like pocket where New York City could get, well, whatever the hubs, however it worked, I don't know. But I just remember I was literally like packing. So it was everything was just on the ground. It was cool because I had an office that was in the pit that was it was we'd go through this warehouse and then we had this one little area that was barely air conditioned or heated. It was this weird drafty place in this warehouse in Lutherville. So anyway,
So
but I
so
remember
this
how lean it was
yeah.
then. It was always lean, always, and how different it was. And it was because they kind of just left that company alone. Uh, Diamond technically owned it. Jeppy bought Alliance at one point for the gaming division. Had in-house people make Game Trade magazine, so in-house people at Diamond and Previews magazine. Because
Hmm.
if you remember, the game section of the Diamond catalog literally was just spun out into Game Trade magazine, which was the same exact magazine, same exact format, same exact writer, same exact interest, same exact layout. So again, working at both of them, it doesn't surprise me. I've heard, on this week on Thinking Critical was another YouTube channel where people talked about how they didn't upgrade their software, Diamond, like just they're so behind the times on so many things. Then it was just coming for a long, long time. But looking at these numbers, it kind of spiral back.
Yeah.
I don't
These
understand. These numbers are just, and we know a few of these publishers. We know a few of these people, like people, you know.
Yeah, like number 27, Dynamic Forces. Like we like Nick Barucci. So you owe him $200,000? That's one dude with a small operation. Like he needs that money. And I don't know, do I care
Yeah,
about Microsoft? No, not really.
here's another
Microsoft.
one, Square Enix. That's pretty like that sounds big. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
video games.
I mean,
Pokemon Company International. Right. We imagine there's more than like 30
yeah.
people working there, right?
But Udon, it's like Matt Moylan and like that's it.
There's like 6 people work there, maybe. Right,
Maybe if
exactly.
even.
Right.
That's a lot of money to a small publisher like that.
Yeah, so when you get towards the, I mean, again, any money owed, I can't imagine Viz does mainly import and translate, right? That's
Yeah.
always been their way. Lunar, why do we owe Lunar money? I guess there's
Same
probably
reason they
different
own Penguin.
deals. Right, exactly. There's probably certain deals that they owe,
They're
and I'm not sure exactly. And same thing
just
with Simon and Schuster. I don't know all the ins and outs of this stuff, but yeah, that's Todd McFarlane International, 1.7 million. And chapter 11, knowing a little bit about it, because remember, listen, Marvel went through chapter 11, right?
right.
So
But
they're
not for
they
the reasons of the comic book company. Everyone goes, "Oh,
right.
Marvel went bankrupt." No, Marvel, the big company, went bankrupt. Marvel
Mhm.
Comics was always doing fine.
They're always solid,
People,
correct?
they were
Yeah.
always solid. You had Heroes Reborn going on. You had Marvel DC crossovers going on. The comics industry itself was strong. Yes, stores still went under the certain things, but like comics were still coming out. People were still getting paid. It's the fact that the owners of Marvel bought Fleer. They bought what was the Panini? They bought the sticker company.
Mhm.
They just kept buying a Toy Biz. All these purchases you didn't need to buy. You bought them all at once. It's a great idea to build an empire, but not that quickly. And you didn't need to. You didn't need to buy these companies. You probably
Listen,
just could have made them. You
yeah,
know what I
or you
mean?
license. You just license.
You
You know what I
license
mean?
until
Like,
you can create your own.
right, right.
Fleer's
Just
a
like
local.
Marvel Studios, the movie studios. You know what I mean? Like they're like, okay, we got partners here, Paramount. You know what I mean? You have your partners, and then you're like, all right, I think we can try. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Fleer, the card company, was at least partially local. I think out of Pennsauken, right?
They were in Mount Laurel. Yeah, Mount Laurel, and because I went there when I had a friend there. Remember Gabe? Remember he would come in the shop too. He worked
Yeah, yeah.
for them for design and stuff. And he came in and um, He meet his wife there because I think it's yeah. I think this girl came in and was talking to him, and that was like his, you know.
I had a one of a kind poster from them. It's a John Romita poster of all these Spider-Man villains. Um, a friend of mine who worked there, like they were trashing him, and he took one, and then he's like, "Here, you take this." He took a poster and he took the negative cell that it was printed on. He's like,
Hmm.
"Here, do you want the poster?" And I'll take the negative cell. I'm like, "Yeah." So he had the negative cell. He took it to Romita to sign it. Romita's like, "How the f did you get this? Like these were destroyed. Like I don't know why they were destroyed. It was an awesome looking. If I find it, I have a picture of it somewhere. I don't know
Hmm.
where. I don't know what happened to my poster. It might have got moved in my post divorce apartment to parents'
Right.
house to my own house. But yeah, one of a kind. John Rita posted. No one's ever seen it.
Wow.
You know.
I don't know anything about that. Yeah. I saw something this week while I have it in we do, my markdown stuff later in one of the future shows. But I didn't know that John Romita Jr. did a cover of Overstreet Price Guide that was a Conan #1 homage. Do you know
Oh
about
yeah.
this? I never saw it. I saw it in an ad in a Conan book. They're like, "Hey, pick up this as a there John Romita Jr." And I was like, "How did that happen?" And Overstreet, if you remember, that was published through Diamond. Like
Yeah.
that was a thing through Jeppy too. So yeah, this whole thing is really scary. Like I don't know exactly, I know Nick Berrucci peripherally, so I don't really know how that's going to work. Are we still getting Dynamite shipments through Diamond for a bit? Is that just going to continue for until further notice, or are they just not paying
Yeah.
people?
Are they just going to
I
keep
don't really
trying to be
know.
like the hope is that they just continue trying to be Diamond? But this doesn't like Chapter 11 is just a reorganization. These people are still going to get paid, right? Like it doesn't.
I don't know.
You don't have to be like, oh, I don't
I'm
owe
not
you
sure.
money anymore.
Right.
I don't know the ins and outs of that level of bankruptcy.
I don't know. Let's go into happy stuff. Happy stuff.
All right.
Here we go. Happy stuff. Um, okay. So this is, I guess, a newer line, Maximum series. So this is the way Hasbro is trying to do. Have you ever seen the SH Figure Arts
Yes.
toys?
Mm,
That this is their version of that, basically. Like, hey, SH Figure Arts, who I guess Marvel's licensing to, are making really good toys. They're probably 40, $50. So this is their trying to kind of get some of that extra hands for what extra
right.
things, right? Extra posable.
Extra
The
heads.
but see, I wish I would have bought it a couple years ago. I had it on pre-order, and then I think they canceled because they rescheduled. But I had an SH Figure Arts pre-order for the Japanese Spider-Man with the Toho Spider-Man, right?
Uh-huh.
And they canceled. I had it through some a Big Bad Toy Store maybe, and then they canceled it. And now Marvel put that out last year. They put out one last year, and it was like $40. I'm like, I think the SH Figure was maybe 50, $60. And I got neither of them over the years. So maybe I still will eventually one. But this one basically is a '90s Spider-Man, right? Essentially. Now I found that pose is
Larson?
it's a Larson pose, yeah,
Yeah,
through 350-ish somewhere in that area. So that's
somewhere.
really fun. I just don't know why, like, if you just have it over there, like, what I mean, if they own it, just have it, like, just put it right there or something. Um, but I'll put it up because I did see it recently in an ad. Actually, I saw that picture of that in like an ad. I'm like, oh wow, that's fun.
Spider-Man by Eric Larson was on Marvel's check for like 25, 30 years.
That's crazy.
I think they only changed it to Mickey Mouse in the past like five. But prior to
Yeah,
that, it was an Eric Larson Spider-Man on all their checks.
no, that's crazy.
I know.
Uh, So I texted you, I think it was like 10 or 10:30 at night or something, because they ran this live stream and I was on some site and they had a couple, or no, it was on their story. I think I texted you the story at the time. But yeah, so then they had this because we've talked about this.
Yeah,
So this, and you made the joke because the initial we talk about this is that the ROM toy was a major failure. They only made 200,000 of them. It
right.
literally was in Time magazine as like the worst toy ever. It's like it was like as it was coming out, it got like bad press day one. So it was only, I don't know exactly how this worked, but
It
we
was
think
it was it
Hasbro,
was Parker Brothers, right?
yeah, yeah,
The
and
original ROM toy was
it
Parker
didn't really
Brothers.
do anything. It's like you could shine a flashlight at it, and it'll shine a flashlight back at you. Like it did like nothing.
Yeah,
Uh, but it
it
was
was like
trying to
well,
be
it was
introduced
inspired
as like a smart toy.
by like Day the Earth Stood Still or something. Like it was that boring. It was like the worst design. It
Hmm. Yeah,
was a boring design.
yeah. It's just, it's just,
However,
yeah. But
the,
what's confusing, I think, with these. Why do they have comic books? Like all of them are coming with this. This is like the coolest action one, right?
yeah,
But they're all coming with like a replica of their own comic book. Like, are they reading your own comic book? It's really weird. It's confusing.
The toy's not in continuity. Don't worry about it.
I guess I just
No,
don't
but
know.
I think it's cool. A little mini comic.
Yeah,
I would take that.
I'm reading it's coming, but I do like. I mean, look, all around. Look, this year I never
That's not the back cover to that comic.
we right we never thought we would have because a couple years ago somebody did it when someone had they made like Micronauts toys. So I guess this is my hope that they're going to make some Micronauts toys, if you can do it. Now, Super 7 is making Micronauts like reaction ones, so but Hasbro technically still has the Micronauts. The Micronauts just came out with three good, better design omnibus. There's three ROM omnibus, which for whatever reason they didn't call Romnibuses. Don't know.
Yeah,
It's
which
right
we've all
there.
stated.
It's right there. It's right there. So again, happy that this is there. I think that's a done deal right there. I do still have to buy the Crystar. I need to make a shelf or something. Again, I don't need anything, right? We don't need any of this shit.
We don't.
But
Yeah,
I want to have Crystar, ROM.
the Marvel comics
I
toys.
don't think there's a Kill Raven. Like, give me stuff like that. Like, give me like my favorite. Give me a man. I think there's a man wolf. I want to say too,
There's a Kill Raven,
like a
isn't
Gil
there?
Caven. I don't think so. If there is, I should buy it. I'll buy it
Yeah.
today. Anyway,
And you get a
um,
marker and put some cross hatching on it, make it look like a Liefeld drawing.
uh,
Get the McFarlane designer who did the Deadpool Liefeld toy.
oh
And just like here, cross hatch this. Can you cross hatch a toy?
yeah. Well, yeah, clearly they were doing cross hatching in the McFarlane ones. But
Yeah.
these are good looking designs. Like this is a Daken, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's a Dark Avengers Daken, right? So he's looking at a Dark
Or
Avengers book. He's like, look at me on the Dark Avengers.
I always called him Daken, but it could be Daken.
Who knows? But I also really like that
You
they're
know what?
they're
We
doing.
if it comes to pronunciation, I'm probably right.
You're probably right, Amalgam.
Amalgam.
Um, but I like these. I think like again having the retro,
You
like
kept
they
calling
don't
him
have
Rome
to
for the
do that.
longest time. I'm like, Mark, it's Rom,
They
not
don't have
Rome.
the Rome Space Knight. They don't have to do these designs. So I do like the Hasbro is doing
You're
like an additional
you're like Charlie Kelly.
logo. You know what I have? Oh, right. I have the ROM Mighty Mugs. I have it over there. I should go get it. Yeah, this is what I sent you. I think I was like, look at this.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that's really really fun. But there's a really really good Warlock. With the Infinity Gauntlet. Comes with that's a George Perez
That's
right
cool.
there. Comes with an Infinity. I'm looking at my own
Got
Infinity Gauntlet. You know, look at me. It's just so funny
I
looking.
remember when this happened.
I remember when this happened. I remember when this comic came out. I love that cover. Oh my God. And I like this Miles because let me see. I think I went back to the Miles or maybe I didn't. I don't
All right.
know. But yeah, so the Miles Morales. I don't know why this isn't on a normal Spider-Man. Like it's like I guess they're doing this new line. I guess the Marvel Legends series. Maybe I feel like Hasbro's been really funky with their packaging, right? Because 2 years ago they did packaging, windowless packaging, and everyone hated it,
Yeah,
right?
that's bad.
So maybe this is cheaper because then they did the window, didn't it? Then I guess maybe they still had the boxes or whatever. And you saw that they just kind of did like a little cutout. So you saw like the top third. And
I'm old
that's the way the
school.
Transformers are. The Transformers are all bad looking. I hate the Transformers packaging. They're all garbage.
Just give me this. Give me the old school plastic bubble glued to a cardboard backing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can hang it up. You can display it. It's easier to rip open. You can kind of put it together if you put it back together if you want to.
Yeah, it's weird. So this
Zark.
this was an added, right? Because this is going to be a Target exclusive Jean Grey X Factor. But because it's not in the same line that builds Holocaust or whatever.
Oh my God. How many ways are you going to spell telekinesis in other languages? Do you see that? Go back. One more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Telekinesis.
I know.
Telekinesis.
Do you really have this many markets for that? Maybe French for French Canadian, but like, what is all that? I don't know. Spanish? Is that many? Are that many people? Is this going to be everywhere? It's like when I see like exclusives
Also,
in Walgreens.
is it that much more expensive to just make it for where it's going to go? Like, oh, here's the box going to
Yeah, why
Canada.
don't you have a sticker here instead? That's I feel like that they used to have that. They wouldn't have it
Yeah.
there. They would have a sticker on it because you got wasted space here.
I mean, the rest of it's all in English. You didn't put Jean Grey in 10 languages. You didn't put Uncanny X-Men. Not
Right.
that it's a name. You don't put names in. Oh, I don't know. They do
Uh,
sometimes. All
yeah.
right, moving on. Moving on up.
Yeah. But that's I don't know. I don't really care about the I don't know. I might get that Cyclops. I love that. I've talked about that. I think I've had that in the last like 3 weeks of news. I'm like, do you see this? You see
Yeah.
the little explosion? And again, I think that's my favorite That's the Simonson X Factor designs. That's my favorite one.
Okay.
So this was from Brazil. I guess this is already out in Brazil. That this is in, and it's a shame you can't really tell the size there. I would imagine it's the flying kind of the fuzzy fly thing. So here's your DC Studios Superman standee filmed for IMAX in cinemas, but I guess it just seems really, really large, right? So what is that, 20 feet, probably 12 feet tall or more? Is that literally lit? Is that
Uh,
lighting
yeah,
inside of it? Holy mackerel, how much do they spend on this thing?
I don't know.
Because you're just giving this to a store. You're giving this to a
The
I'm sorry,
theater.
a movie theater, yeah.
Yeah.
So are these really lights? It seems like that's lit, right? Back
I
there?
don't know. I don't know.
I
Don't
don't know.
know.
Looks like a
It
carpet, you know?
looks like a carpet. The blue carpet.
It's
You
got to
think
be
they'll have a
something.
you
You
think they'll have
can't,
a blue carpet at the premiere?
yeah, maybe.
I
That would
mean,
be good.
red carpet works just as well. I mean, he does have a red cape.
So I was trying to look at merch because I saw some merch pop up this week, and then I literally came across this. So this, I guess I can get this. I mean, again, I have to lose, a lot more weight to fit into that to have that slim like that. But
Yeah, you can
I
get
just
it
kind
now.
of
You just look
priced it.
really funny.
Yeah, it won't work. But you could. It was really cool though because like it when you filled it out, it went to like dog. It's like crypto suit. It's like no dog, small dog, medium dog, large dog. So I put bear in that. And crypto suit is what I guess just a cape. So
Just cape.
literally, oh wait, I guess there's something. Yeah, if you look at it, I guess there is like
Oh, look at
a.
that
Was that what crypto has when you see him? Does he have
little
a chest
super.
plate?
Maybe he should. Be cool if he does.
And I
It's not like he's a real dog, so you can
so
just do whatever you want to with him.
220. Oh, looks pretty good. I don't know. But I did zoom on this because I don't think we've seen this. So it is. I mean, here again, we're not. This isn't the official by. I don't. This is official by any means. But again, I know that it's there. But it's an out. It's the outline, which is what we want. We don't want nothing because what Man of Steel had nothing, right? It's just a cape,
Right.
lazy. So no underpants, no logo on cape. Screw you. Screw you, and also screw you because you can't have Man of Steel in a comic book for DC. It's bullshit. You're right. You're 100% right in that theory, but like, because you don't want to invoke that
Yes.
Snyderverse to comic book fans. However, like, just wash it out of your brain. Now, all this merch is fine. I just think it's weird. They have two pieces of key art, just one, two, and that's it. That's it. They have no other key art that they're using on the. This is the initial stuff. It's on DC Shop. Um, they're okay. I think a lot of them are okay. This one
Yeah.
I might actually purchase because
I kind of like it.
I feel like this is like it's listen, to have both sides for 45 big. Normally, on a lot of my Godzillas, like it'll be a Godzilla like tiny logo here and then a huge Godzilla on the back, and that's 55, $60, whatever. And I usually wait for sales or coupons or whatever. But this looked pretty good to have a hoodie for 45. And it's not just a tiny logo here. You have two spaces as well as like a little logo up top there. The other stuff I thought was kind of interesting. And I think just having the look up on some of it and take me home as slogans. I think the design wise, I think is really good. I like this blue. This I thought was interesting of having
A
uh
mashup of the new logo with the traditional Superman movie
yeah,
effects. I like that.
and I guess and this is again this probably that's really clean, really clean like early like vector Photoshop design, I guess, easy. But again, if you have a mug that's on three spaces for $15, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Um but there was a couple here where you have a Fortress of Solitude and it's just like this like I don't know how I guess well that's home. Take me home. It's just kind of funny like
Well,
you have a
that's
big
is that him?
blanket.
Is that Fortress or is that him smashing into the earth?
Nah, it's Fortress because it's all
I'm only
uh,
seeing a little picture of it.
yeah, that's all Fortress. So
Okay. Um,
uh
while we're talking about Superman, before we go on to the next thing, this seems like a good place to talk about the Elseworlds announcement with the
yeah.
different DC anime. Like what we're getting with the James Gunn movies is you've already seen it in front of Creature Commandos, the Superman with the chains
Mhm.
bursting open. That's a really cool little animatic. But I guess if it's a non James Gunn movie or TV show, they're gonna have something different.
Right.
So Harley Quinn started this week. I didn't watch it yet, and they said they didn't put it on there, but maybe they're going to as soon as they figure it out.
They're
Like
trying
you
to
read the
figure it
article,
out.
right?
yeah, they're trying to figure out. So he wanted to say, so someone mentioned something that, again, James Gunn, just stop responding to every fucking person that asks you a question. This is literally what this came from. It was a question on X and was like, hey, are you going to do a different animation now that Harley Quinn, so and so's back or whatever, or Batman or Penguin? He's like, yeah, actually, we're working on an Elseworlds animation right now. And then I'm like, well, what's Elseworlds now? Like, because we don't know, because Kite Man or Harley Quinn might be Elseworlds, but Creature Commanders is technically DC, but it's still animation. Animation doesn't look that different. So, and then what's Elseworlds going to be? Is it going to be, whatever
It should
Clayface
be
movie?
it
Is
should
that
be
going to be Elseworlds, or is that going to be
it should be
continuity?
Superman with a giant ant head doing the same thing.
Oh,
Or
right, right,
or Superman, he's there with the chains, and then he splits into two, like Superman Red, Superman Blue,
yeah,
and then they both rip off the chains simultaneously.
yeah.
That would
Or
be
you can
awesome.
have Batman, and it's Zebra Batman or Rainbow Batman, or like
They're
or
not
uh,
they're
or
not
Flame
Elseworlds
Bird.
though, Mark. It'd be more like Gotham by Gaslight.
That's
Like do
imaginary stories. That's right. I'm sorry. You know,
no, it something there's something funny to be done there.
imaginary tales.
I
What
mean,
were they? What would they call those? Pre Elseworld, Elseworlds?
oh, imaginary stories. I think
Yeah. So because they have trades of them, they have actually trades you can purchase of it.
Superman Red,
Yeah.
Superman Blue. I love it. It's a great
I,
story.
I just yeah, and then they end up bringing it back, which I thought was pretty good. That was a good time. That was then
Oh,
you had
Electric Superman.
Electric
The-
Superman, Superman Red, Superman Blue.
That was a good usage of a story. It's funny. I always wanted to tell a story, even from when I was like younger. Like, as soon as I discovered Superman Red, Superman Blue, I'm like, I want to see more of this universe. And I would imagine like, oh, what if like that universe still continued and you did a story where like, oh, here's like, what if, like he's still red and blue when like John Byrne takes over, or you see an Ed McGuinness Superman Red, Superman Blue. Like, I wanted to tell the story. And then when I finally read DC's, Alan Moore's proposed DC's Twilight of the Superheroes book,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's like, oh, the problem with Crisis, like he was bitching about Crisis in the pitch. He's like, you got rid of all your imaginary stories. Like perhaps I'd like to do a story where 20 years later of the Superman Red, Superman Blue world, or a follow up to the Superman story where Superman dies, Death of Superman, like the
Hmm.
original '60s story where he died, where Lex Luthor kills him. And I'm like,
Right.
damn you, Alan Moore, with your incredible Superman ideas.
Alan Moore.
He Alan Moore had so many Superman ideas, and it's a shame he never got to like do them. He was going to do Action Comics while John Byrne was going to do Superman, but like DC, not John Byrne. DC was really pushing the reboot, and Alan Moore wanted to do more of like a reworking of everything Superman into his Superman story, almost like what he did with Supreme, different, but like some
Hmm.
a similar vibe. So like even John Byrne wanted to stay with DC continuity. He didn't want to reboot Superman at first. Is that weird? Like I always
Yeah.
thought that was all John Byrne. It's not.
Yeah,
It
but
was
John
more of a
Byrne, yeah, because we need to go into we should go in, we should call it, we should name it something like critical times or something like where things almost happened and then they went a different way or they repurposed. We should
it's our
call it
own
like
Elseworlds what if imaginary
yeah,
stories.
yeah, like the repurposes are we talk about repurposes every week, and why can't we have that Kill Raven story as, something or
Right, Kill Raven,
like
which was almost a Commandy story, which was almost hey, you know who else pitched Commandy? DC turned down. Eric Larson writing, Art Adams drawing. They both wanted to do Commandy. And DC's like, no.
no.
No. Eric Larson, who lives and breathes Jack Kirby. Art
Mm.
Adams, who's just Art Adams. You know what I mean? Like those two together on a
Let's
Commandy book.
let's turn that down.
Let's
I
turn
guess
that
they even
down.
did Commandy Challenge, and I don't think Art Adams. They might maybe a variant cover, but I don't think anything came up from
No.
that either.
Art Adams
They had
loves
some good
Commandy.
artists in that too. Yeah,
That's one of the books he really wanted to do. Same with Eric Larson. Eric Larson's
yeah,
pitched that book multiple times. He's pitched it with both him as writer and artist, and then pitched it with Art Adams drawing it. That's
yeah. I
insane.
feel I feel like there should just be like I feel like with those type of contracts, it should just be like okay. I feel like if I was DC, I would be like, okay, you have a certain fan base coming over, right? So we're gonna pay you back end or something, right? So you bring it, right? You're bringing it, so you bring it, so you get back end. So I'll pay you this stipend, and then you get
Yeah.
back end in publishing, and you get,
Right.
I feel like it should be more of a. So it's not just a job for money's sake, right? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
have to like earn it, and
Right.
because they are bringing X audience.
Yes.
And I feel like then they would work a little extra harder. Again, I can't wait for the Youngblood stuff in general because I feel like Liefeld's been doing so much good work with like Last Blood and has his stable of production people, right? Like the
Yeah,
colors on Last Blood that you showed me was like they're so much better than not that what's coming out with Marvel stuff, but he's doing a Marvel housey style necessarily in that. They're doing a somewhat regular traditional coloring for Marvel, right?
yeah.
But
It's still his colorist. I think he found them, but like it's
but
more
he's
traditional.
still being instructed to I need you to do this more this X
Yeah,
traditionally, right? So, but I feel like with Last Blood, and if he leans into that same type of way for Youngblood, which the promo art seems to be that way, seems
yeah.
to be the
We
way
got another piece
that's
of promo
going.
art this week of just a solo picture of Shaft. So that's a
Yeah.
book that he's like I think he's halfway. I think he's like last week he was 15 pages in the first issue. And then he says today,
Mm,
he's like, oh, I'm working on two Youngblood books at once. What? Like it could be Bloodsport, the follow up issue, or I
right.
don't know what he's so excited. He's jazzed and so much energy towards it. And and he's put out 5 promotional images for Youngblood so far. And
Mm.
each one looks good.
I've only
Uh
seen one. We need to
no, you
plop
have.
them all in. One, two, three, 4 or 5. I showed Rob when we first came on. I'm like, let me show you what I'm doing. You said something last episode, and I plopped them all in at the same time, and
Yeah.
I'm showing in like the stretch, and you're like, thank God you know how to do this because I don't know what I'm looking at. Like it looks like it
I have
looks
no
alien.
editing. I have no editing skills. I never
Yeah,
sat down. And
it's
you know
pretty
what?
fun. Yeah, I love it.
Since since we're on the Youngblood thing, here's the next thing we're going to talk
When are
about.
we not on the Youngblood thing? Just to be clear,
It's crazy. I know.
that's okay.
It
That's okay.
listen, it it's good
One
to
of
be
our
excited
first
about something, dude.
conversations probably is that, and it's our conversation 30 years later. You know what I mean? Like
No, it's fun.
crazy.
We
Yeah.
like with the image books, it's almost like where were you at when you got this book? Like I have specific
I was at
memories.
Collingswood.
Yeah, all through the '90s. Like certain books, I can tell you where I got them, what shop, what I
Mhm.
was thinking, what I was feeling then. So since we're on the topic, here's what I'm pushing forward. Before Youngblood #1 originally came out in 1992, Liefeld was going to do a book through Malibu called Extreme: The Art of Rob Liefeld.
Oh yeah,
It was going to be a
I have those.
72 page, yeah, a 72 page square bound edition, embossed cover. It was going to have a new Youngblood story. It was going to have Youngblood trading cards. This was going to count as the first appearance of Youngblood.
Mhm.
It's going to
Right.
have rare art, unpublished art. This book was all ready to go, I think. And then Marvel, who was angry still at Liefeld, who wasn't even going to leave Marvel. It was the audacity of Liefeld. How dare he do his own book? Marvel threatened to sue over Berserkers. So this book, Marvel's like, oh, yeah, but you can't use any Marvel artwork in this book.
Yeah, can you explain Berserkers for a second there? Or was
Berserkers,
Executioners or Berserkers?
it was Executioners.
Uh-huh.
Liefeld had a team he put together, made it up called the Executioners. Real excited. He's going to publish it through Malibu. He put a 1 page ad in Comic Buyer's Guide.
Yep.
Marvel flipped. They're like, you can't do a book. It's how dare you call it Executioners? That's
Can't have X
X.
in it, but it was
Can't have
EX.
X in it. Like Liefeld was like, you don't own the letter X. You know,
Put
and they're
EX
like,
here.
oh, so Marvel got so
X.
pissed. So he pulled back. But when he pulled back, he knew like I have this energy, I have this love for creating characters. Like I need to do this for myself. And Marvel's not that Marvel was holding them back, but to a point they were.
Sure.
And that's why we got Youngblood and that's why we got Image. Because all these guys felt a little held back, for different reasons, for different artists.
Look, I think that like if we can count out, we don't have to do it right now, but like we probably will. At that
Oh,
time, he's
he did
exploding with
change.
characters at
Yes.
Marvel, right? He's exploding with characters, and then so in a way, like any editing there of them pulling him back, to the point where this character here, literally, we talked about him last week, where Cougar is mentioned at the bottom there, like if this is technically the first potentially, well, again, no, because Marvel Age would have been the first appearance of Cougar technically,
Right.
right? But again, he's bursting so much. Where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to pull his character back a little bit. I'm going to, let me
He
just pull this here."
yeah. He had already given one member of Youngblood tempo to the Mutant Liberation Front.
Mhm.
So he had already given that. And he created Deadpool, created Cable. Did you know Marvel has tried to buy back the rights to Deadpool from Liefeld? Liefeld gets, I don't know, the rumor is a 5% cut of all Deadpool profit.
And
Not
merchandise.
profit, Deadpool profit. Profit was going to be in X Force as well. He was
Oh my
going to be
god.
assassin sent from the future to take out Cable. And Liefeld's like, this guy might be better than that. So he pulled him from the
Right.
book.
Oh my
So is
God.
that weird? Profit.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's so. But you're right. But yeah, this is. I do remember this ad. And then because you sent me some of this artwork earlier, and I'm like,
yeah,
what was
this I
that
think was going to
from?
be the cover. So you got Shaft, you got Hawk from Hawk and Dove, and you
Right.
got Cable. So Marvel says, don't use, how dare you, don't use Marvel characters in this book. But it's an art review book. It's all this, it was going to be original art and sketches and unused ideas.
Hmm.
Like that stuff had always been done throughout the 70s with art prints and 80s, so, but it became like bothersome to Marvel when it came to Liefeld.
Yeah, they just
He
were
was
too
just,
contentious about it for sure.
yeah. Um, so like, I want to push forward that he should do this book this year. Just do
Hmm.
it before the new Youngblood book comes out. Extreme, but instead of doing take out any Marvel. You have so much artwork of Image and other stuff. Just use all your Youngblood, your Extreme, use all that stuff instead of, if you even want to use that stuff. Like to me, if you want to do Extreme, the Art of Rob Liefeld book, really make it Youngblood centric. Did
Hmm.
he did he write this 8-page story? Is it laid out, or was it? I don't think it was going to be. It was
I don't know
supposed to
if
be the
it's
first.
story. It just says color section, so it might just be art.
Other
Might be his
other
coloring.
other things said. I think I've read elsewhere that it was going to be like a story.
Oh, I
Either
see.
it was going to be the first 8 pages of Youngblood, or it was going to be like a build up to Youngblood. I don't know, but it
What
was
is
going to have
this?
trading
What is
cards.
that Cougar from? That's from Youngblood, B-side
Yeah,
jumping.
right, right,
Right.
yeah. So like, I'm just gonna ask Rob like, hey, any thought of doing this? Like, how together was it? How far along was it?
Right. You saw the film with it. Do you have like I don't know? Because again, what would you
Or
have
at
of
least,
this?
or at least, do you know what was going to be in it?
Right. 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 Right.
And then take out the Marvel stuff. You
Or
know?
or now that there's like Abrams Comics arts, or there's a million, or IDW puts out Atlas Comics library.
Yeah,
How? You know what I mean? Like how? Why? You know what I mean? Like that I guess our biggest question is why? Like and again, this is complimentary, but like, Nick signs the deal for all these for Space Ghost, for Johnny Quest, and it's like, wait a second, like they were already published at these. Wait, they're Warner Brothers properties. They don't want to
yeah,
deal with them. You know what I mean? Like, and again, they don't. So, and then how good is the Space Ghost book? They're going to cross over Space Quest. They're going to have Johnny Quest. Like, so
right.
how well is that selling? Like, the reason why Marvel doesn't have Conan is because they didn't pay enough attention to it. So the rights holders of Conan were like, "Hey, we're taking that back." And like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, sorry." And then like they had stuff solicited for the omnibus and stuff, and they're just gone. They're gone. They were just like, "Yeah, sorry," because then again they could just pull it back, and they did. And thank God they did, because again they were, I forget what market share they had. It was like 2 or 3%. You're just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, so they're a player. They're in. They have market share, and they're putting out excitable books. I met this guy yesterday at a con, and I was pulling some Conan books, and he's looking. He's like, "You reading the new one?" And we had a 10-minute conversation. Everyone's staring at us like, "These guys are talking about Conan, these old heads." And I'm like, "Yeah, go check it out." I was like, "Oh, well, yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, get the free comic book day." So that's what I'm saying. Like, just get the next
Yeah,
free comic book
yeah.
day. Get it for free if you can't buy it. You know what I mean? Go or check it out. So, yeah, I would be curious. So going back to this for a second, I would be curious if like, what if it would be cool if you put out like an edition and put out an Awestruck edition, put out an edition where as if it came out. Like here's a replica edition of
Dude,
Extreme the Art of Rob
it's
Liefeld
funny.
that it came
I
out.
actually, I actually already, I messaged Rob, like he didn't get back to me
Yeah,
yet,
you position that.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
can you do a facsimile book that never came out?
sure.
Like legit. It's funny you said that. I legit already asked him
That's
that.
so funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
give me
you
a
can put
facsimile
in
edition
you put
of
in a
this
first
book.
page and be like, this is how this was intended. So did you
Yeah,
see? I didn't send you a video of this, but another company got the Jose Garcia Lopez DC style guide, right?
hmm
So a company got that, and it was, I believe, $75 to $100 was it, and it's not a company that we are familiar with. It's not Abrams, it's not IDW, it's not whatever. But I've seen video reviews of this, and they're going page by page, and the way they went page by page, is, this is weird, this is upside down, this is that, and then in the beginning of it, it says this is exactly how it was laid out. So they sent out style guides, and it literally was in a binder. It was literally like a spiral binder, and they gave it to people, right? So if it was wrong, they just took high res scans of it being wrong. And that's amazing. That's exactly what we want or would want to do if we did something like this.
Yeah.
Put it in wrong. Great. When we talk about if you did a Transformers universe reprint, you're going to put, was it broadside?
Yeah.
You're going to put the wrong one in.
Right.
And then maybe put an extra page in and be like corrections page. Put as printed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rumble Frenzy are wrong. Okay, fine. You know what I mean? Like
IDW put out two Transformer books that were just all the model designs for the animated cartoon, which is
great.
the first time. That's when I realized, oh, this is the Marvel universe. This is the Transformers universe Marvel book. They just literally took the animation models and upped them a little bit with
I
that.
think it says, yeah, I think it says it in the credits. It says it something like that. It's
So
worded
they're
that
like,
way.
it's like the designers. Like I know Fluoro Dairy is one of the more famous
Yeah,
Transformers.
it doesn't say. It just says model sheets. It just
Yeah,
says based on X model sheets. It doesn't say like Floria. Right, exactly. But yeah, if anything, because even and I would love. We need to do a deep dive on this topic. Is how if enemy commander was to go back to the beginning of the show, if
yeah,
enemy commander was Cobra Commander, enemy leader or whatever it was called,
right. Enemy leader.
enemy leader, if that was the temporary name or the placeholder name, how the fuck was Rocky Balboa printed in issue like 3 and on the cover, and then in issue 2, and then on issue like 3 or 4, they're like, oh, by the way, Rocky Balboa was never part of GI Joe. It had to have been something. Someone was contracted to draw Rocky Balboa
Yeah,
twice
he was.
because he was on the cover as well. He was
There's
on the
more to
cover.
that. No, he was going. They were going to make a figure of him, just like Refrigerator Perry was a member of GI Joe.
Oh, right. Yeah, and then well, Sergeant Slaughter was iffy too because Sergeant Slaughter was a real
A
person.
wrestler, right? Which may or may not be owned by WWF. Some of those wrestlers don't own their own personalities.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
job, Vince McMahon. What a jerk
Well,
for many levels.
yeah.
Oh, Vince McMahon, he goes right along with Neil Gaiman and Bill Cosby. Let's not end on that end note though. Let's end on this good. Like,
Right.
so you and I, we want to push. I'm going to push for this book to get made
Push the
with
joy
with
dollars.
with the zero amount of influence we have.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm talking 2025. I think we need to get in everyone's faces, right? I think that's my whole gig in 2025. So I just want to get in people's faces in a nice way. In a nice way, to be
In
clear.
a joyful,
In a
hopeful way,
joyful way.
not a
What
rage
what I
way.
like about our community is I really like that, I went to a show in Old Bridge and we'll have a separate show for that yesterday. And I haven't seen these guys in a couple months, right? Because again, it's cold, and I haven't been to a couple shows or whatever. And every single person that saw me was like, "Oh, cool!" And this one guy literally came out. I was looking through some of the stuff, and I think I even told you about this guy. This guy is he is a mortgage broker, like an actual like. And I was
Hmm.
in his garage. He had a garage sale, and I went to his house. And he had a literal garage sale, and I think I got a long box or something from him. And he's like, I was putting stuff together. He's like, just finish out. Here's a long, finish it out, and then we'll figure it out. Again, classic markdown situation. Markdown is the new show segment portion of the show where you don't pay retail, where this is a community. And when they know that you are not investing, you're not flipping, you're not taking advantage of it, you have money in your pocket for them.
Right?
I'm literally in this guy's garage.
You have cash. Cash is
His
king.
wife had cookies for us, and we're just eating, cookies and cider. It was, I think, I want to say it was cold because I asked him, I was like, hey, did you do another garage? Just it's too cold. We're going too soon. We'll let you know. I said, great. This guy literally, I was going to the next table. His table was pretty packed. He walks over. He's like, if you just want to if you want to do, like, he was trying to give me the same deal I already had, but I was already like kind of diversified at that point, right?
Yeah.
Which is so funny. Like he literally like made a point to come out. He's like, "Hey man, hey, if you want to get it," and it was so nice. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. I was like, I'm still working on little veins. I'm still working on little stuff. I don't know. I don't have anything exactly that I want right now. So, but let me keep moving. So I didn't go back to them, but I will. But it was really fun to see some of the same guys I saw. Like some of the see some of the same guys, and that's I need to take you to some of those shows. That's the North. Today is
Right.
Derek's show in Philly. Derek was there actually. So Derek Woywood has a show he's been doing in Philly. It's like Holiday Inn for 20
30
years,
years.
30 years. Yeah. and he does it's like usually every 8 weeks or so. It used to be almost every month, and I was tempted to go that today, but I was like, I gotta back.
It
I'm
was
backed up
real
on
easy.
stuff,
It used to
but
be right at the Holiday Inn in South Philly, like right across the Walt Whitman
yeah,
Bridge
it
from
just
us.
drop right in.
It
Yeah,
was an easy 15-minute ride, easy parking.
now it's farther out to Essington now, so now it's
Essington,
farther
yeah,
out.
it's a little past the airport. Got to pass it. It's not a bad drive. It's just,
Yeah, it's not 20 minutes, 10, 15 minutes from
yeah, yeah,
wherever you're at. So it's when it hits 35, 40. Now I drive now because it's different dealers and a different makeup because Zap Comics is there, and I'll have to show you later what Zap Comics has about three stores up in Patterson area, up in North Jersey, and they always have a great table. They have a great $3 bins. I'll show you my $3 stuff. And then they had this week they had a 70% off book, like just a ton of good stuff. And I'm like, oh, and I grabbed two books from there. I'll show you that. It's super fun. But yeah, so we're very pro, but I love the community. I'm really excited about this year. I had so many ideas and was going through a bunch of stuff, and my girlfriend shaking her head at me. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "I want to do everything this year." Because I feel like we've already, again, it was a big hurdle for us for years. We talked on the phone and was like, we should just record this. This is what we do, talk
yeah.
about,
This is what
like
we
this
do.
is exactly it, and have the passion for that stuff and be excited for that. And more so getting more into like the nooks and crannies of this, of seeing this, and our brains were going crazy when we saw this ad. We're like, oh man, like what's that? Or like when you sent it to me, I was like, well, how was this? How was that drawn? How the heck is that there? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
If he still has this artwork, and I hope he does, like finish it, but then just like make Cable Colonel Bravo, make
mm,
Hawk a new character. He's a Osprey or, something
right.
bird, like a Talon, whatever you want to name him. Just call, you don't have to even name them. Just make them like black and red or something, or black
Right,
and,
right,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah. I just think I feel like he should have enough non-contentious now at Marvel doing books for them that are clearly profitable between Deadpool Bad Blood to Better Blood to the re-release of Bad Blood. You know what I mean? Like to just
Right.
I feel like there's more than enough money is made for them over the last 5 years, including the Deadpool stuff, including the time slide variants, including like anything else that they could just kind of like mine. Go ahead. He's
Yeah.
about it. You mine it, fine, no problem. We listen to his podcast. He's talking about buying stuff on that so he can redraw it or resell it through his whatnot, not making a profit. Just like I want other people to have it.
Mm.
Like awesome. Who's doing that? Who's deciding to buy stuff off of eBay to resell it, not really for profit, but to get it to the right fans?
Yeah. To get it like
Come on,
signed.
man. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. He's printing out the last bloods at like 10, 20, 30 copies a piece. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like it's so crazy,
He's
so
making
the
exclusive
micro
books for people. Yeah.
distribution. Yeah, it's to have the
Yeah.
micro distribution aspect of it is really fun. So yeah, so I feel like we need to figure out ways to subvert all this stuff and just figure out to get our stuff out there printed or help people get stuff out that's been dormant.
Yeah. And this is a book that,
Yeah, man.
34 years in the making.
Oh, and the only thing we skipped this, but it's the only slide. Just real fast, go to this YouTube Cinema Force. I don't know how to do this, but this person literally like watched The Shadow in black and white, and it's all crisp. Apparently, it's just really crisp anyway. He didn't have to do anything. He just watch it in black and white. I'm not sure how if we have settings on our TV that we can just do that, but
Maybe he just has a black and white TV.
I don't know. It looked really good though. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of a cool extra bit. That it just a lot of it seemed to really play really well, and he showed a couple of different clips from it. It was really really fun.
Yeah.
So, but that's it for the news this week. We'll get into other stuff, and we're going to do reviews day. Stay tuned for reviews day. So, did you want to mention Huck real fast? The Huck 2?
Oh yeah.
Forgot about
Mark
that.
Miller announced that he's doing with Raphael Albuquerque.
Oh,
He,
again, how are you doing that? How's that happening?
yeah.
What's going on there? So, okay. So you're telling me you're going to do a 4 or 5 issue series? Is that
Six.
in the can? Is that why you couldn't do? Listen, I'll be okay with it, and this might be true. I'll be okay with it if he couldn't do Absolute Superman, because he was doing this for,
Right.
not that Miller wouldn't wait for him or whatever, or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe I don't
If
know.
he probably already waited. Like this series is the first series came out a long time ago. Um, in fact, I think Raphael Albuquerque also did the first miniseries for Prodigy.
Yeah.
And I had thought, like, oh, I thought since Raphael or Albuquerque like co-created these characters with Miller, I'm like, well, the obvious follow-up would be these two working together. See, Hulk is kind of like a golden age Superman. He's not
Hmm.
stupid. He's just a little bit simple. But he's good-hearted. I think Miller compared him to like Forrest Gump, but
Hmm.
maybe not like
Right.
that. But he's still a golden age Superman, strong, jump,
Right.
near invulnerable.
Right.
And I thought like, wow, he'd be a great character to team up with Prodigy because Prodigy's kind of like a good Lex Luthor. He's
Right.
like
Right.
just
Right.
the world's smartest man, but he is really good. So I'm like, oh, what if the world's smartest man could work with Huck,
Hmm.
like a Superman, Golden Age Superman archetype? No costume. He just wears like overalls.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
To me, it
Yeah.
was just like a real easy, like something that he should
I only
do
ever read the first issue, and I wasn't crazy about it, so I gotta go back and read it.
of Huck.
Sure, that's a good read. Sure,
It's an easy, listen,
it's a
it's
good
Mark
simple
Miller.
one. Yeah,
Everything's a good, simple read.
I
Like
want
he
to read
writes in a way, it's just simple.
MPH. MPH is my favorite one I think
NBH is
ever.
good.
Starlight's my favorite one. You know what? It's kind of great. It's kind of great that you can fight about your favorite on a specific creator. There's not many creators you can say that. Be like, oh, I like this more than that. But the first Kick-Ass is really good. Oh crap! Like, but I like, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
it's like to have that. That's pretty good and good for him. And also we're kind of fans of him, not for him being a liar so much, um, but like the fact that he's very generous with the way he sets up his properties, right? He sets up
yeah,
his properties a certain way.
he's.
Uh,
I don't
and
think he gets paid for these miniseries. I think his cut of the money is going to the artist, so the artist gets paid incredibly well
mhm.
because he's technically an employee of Netflix.
Right, 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 right.
So he's not getting paid for writing all these comics. He doesn't have to write these comics, but he
He
loves
doesn't have to write his
comics.
comments, right? Exactly. So,
It's insane, and he's rich. He literally does not have to write anything.
right.
But if you are creative, it's in you. You can't stop. You think
Mhm.
Liefeld needs to draw another comic? No, he doesn't. That's
No.
why you don't see these guys draw. You don't see McFarlane draw. You don't see Silvestri draw as much as we want him to draw. You
Mhm.
know, Larson could retire. You know, his wife's retired. His wife's a
Right,
retired lawyer. You don't think
right,
he's
right,
he's fine? You don't think he's just fine? You know what I
right.
mean?
Right, right. No, I know. I know.
So these guys, and he's putting out a monthly book. Liefeld puts out 7 comics a year and covers. How much
Mhm.
work that is? I can't get Milligan to do 7 pages in a year.
Uh, we're gonna
I'll
end on
never.
that.
Let's end on that.
All right, we're gonna end
Hey
on that.
everyone, have a good week. Thanks for checking out the news, and
Oh yeah.
stick around. Later in the week, you'll see the reviews.
Reviews day, everybody. Reviews day, and I'm gonna get a markdown episode for the con while it's fresh, fresh markdown episode. All right, see you, everybody.